Welcome to the CatFiveBoys podcast. I am your host, Matt, and I'm here with my co-host, Maddie.
Hey everybody, hope everyone's doing well today.
And we have a special guest today, Aubrey. Say hi, Aubrey. Say something a little bit about yourself or something going on in your life, man.
Hey, how's everything, man? No, a little bit about me, quickly speaking. I'll run through quickly. Personal trainer for about 10 years and in finance for the last five, and hopefully can add some interesting opinions.
Wonderful, wonderful. Just a couple of pre-show announcements before we get started. First and foremost, thank you so much for everybody tuning in right now. You're spending your time with us. You could be spending it anywhere else and doing anything else, but you're spending it with us listening to our voices, so we appreciate it very much. Disclaimers: the views expressed on the show by the individual hosts and or guests do not necessarily reflect the views of the Cat 5 Boys podcast. Further disclaimer: the topics that we speak on the show are not always the most light and politically correct. Sometimes it can get a little dark. Sometimes it can get deep. So if that's not your thing, this might not be the show for you. We have clips. If you can't catch the full shows, and you kind of want to see some of the best bits, obviously not all of the best bits, because then what would be the point of the episodes? If you want to catch some of the best bits of the show, some of the funniest parts, some of the parts where we're kind of cooking a little bit, if you want to catch those little clips, we have clips accounts on Instagram, TikTok, and here if you're watching on YouTube, we have YouTube Shorts as well. All of those accounts and every single one of our social medias are at Cat5Boys, so go check those out as well. If you want to be a guest on the show, we would love to have you on. Just like Aubrey is on right now, we would love to have each and every one of you on, hear your individual opinions, and if you disagree with us, come on the show to debate us, or maybe if you just want to talk about something cool that's going on in your life, we would love to have you on. Just DM us on Instagram at Cat5Boys, letting us know that you're interested in being on the show, giving us a little quick bio about yourself, and then we will coordinate and have you on as soon as possible. I stream every single Saturday. I did not stream last Saturday or the Saturday before that, and to be honest with you, I'm probably not going to stream this Saturday, but I try to stream as much as I can on Saturdays. Usually start around 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, if you guys want to check that out as well. If you guys want to maybe talk shit on me live in the chat, and maybe you want to give me some love, I would love to see you guys in the chat over there on Twitch and YouTube. All those links will be in the description down below. I usually talk about politics, sometimes, or most of the time I talk about religion. It all depends, really. Sometimes we play games. We have a little fun over there. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure to tune in on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We post every single Wednesdays and Fridays. Make sure to like, and we love the comments. If you want to leave any sort of stories or any sort of funny experiences we can read during the Reddit segment of the show, we would love to do that as well. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Drop us a 5-star rating on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And yeah, with that being said, and without further ado, let's get started with the show. So we have Aubrey on today, and you said you were a personal trainer and what exactly are you doing in finances?
Now I'm not really doing anything crazy. Basically, I work in a job that basically manages investments. But in addition to that, um, me personally, I'm involved in real estate. I'm a real estate investor. Um, I've dove more into the financial world the last 5-ish years, just to sort of counterbalance what I've learned in the fitness world, for about 10.
That's good. That's interesting. So you're kind of focusing right now on the real estate side of things?
Well, both. I mean, real estate's kind of interesting in the sense that it doesn't require a whole lot of focus, I would say. The main focus is in buying the properties that you think can generate income and are profitable. But if you're good at what you do, hopefully that isn't a full-time job, right? Hopefully this should be a way to store your money, earn more money, take advantage of inflation, take advantage of the rising cost of real estate. But it shouldn't be something that dominates your time. Most recently, I'm sort of breaking into the podcast world, like I'm doing with you guys today, obviously. With a focus on really three things, are really, I guess, my three interests for podcast I'll be creating soon, and just me and my personal life. I've broken it down into really just money, muscle, mindset, three M's. And yeah, that's really where my focus is talking with other men and really helping in those three departments.
That's interesting, man. That's good to know. Hopefully we'll have some, which I'm sure we will have some very interesting conversations today, and kind of branch out into the outer world of society and how men fit into that, and masculinity in general. But I think it should make for very interesting conversations. Is there anything that has been going on recently that you kind of want to speak about? Any specific, I suppose, interesting things that are going on for you?
Me personally, I would say, hmm, it's funny. Life is pretty boring, I would say, in the
That's a
best
good
way
thing. Yeah,
possible.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, in the best way possible, life is boring, and I mean that in the sense of, I work the job, go to the gym, try to keep a keen eye on my investments. Um, and those are really my areas of focus. If I'm not doing those things, I'm really just spending time with family and going on vacation and trying to enjoy life. But me personally, I found that if those elements of my life are succeeding, then I'm happy in general. Even if it's boring, I'm a happy camper.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Just one final question before we get moving on with the introduction. What is your relationship status currently? Or actually, we'll start with that. What is your relationship status currently?
I'm in a relationship currently.
Okay, and how long has your relationship been, if you don't mind me asking?
Mm, wow, that's a good question.
Yeah, Matt, you just sold them
So,
out.
yeah, you sold me out a little bit. No, it's been a little over 7 years with this girl
Oh,
specifically.
wow.
Oh, great, great. And she's the only one. She's the only person you've been with, or have you had past relationships as well?
I've had past relationships as well. Presently, it's a monogamous dynamic, I would guess you should say.
Okay,
Good.
monogamous.
How it should be.
Yeah, good, good. Is 7 years the longest you've had with any other relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only 29 years old, so I don't know what I was doing at 14, but I wasn't didn't have a girlfriend. So yeah, it's my longest by a pretty safe distance.
29 and 7 year relationship. That's good, man. That's something to be proud of. Round of applause for him. But
Thank you.
let me see. So monogamous relationship. That's good. You've been with her for 7 years, and you've had past. You said you've had past relationships, but like probably like one or two, huh?
I mean, I guess it depends on what you call a relationship would be part of it. I've had, and I dated one girl for a couple of years in high school, but I mean, I don't know what level of seriousness you would define that. Um, yeah, and then sort of casual relationships, and I don't know how you want to describe a lot of those middle relationships. They're a little bit strange, I guess,
Yeah, probably some
in that sense.
situationships through there.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, you name it, I've kind of seen it a little bit. Um, so yeah, I would say a lot of hanging around, nothing serious, in sort of the middle between that, and yeah, I mean, just meeting people and really dating up until the point where they prove that I shouldn't be.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. But yeah, so that's good. That's good. Maddie, what is your relationship status? Just kind of get the relationship statuses out of the way for this for the guest and for the new episode right now.
Oh, sure thing, buddy. I don't know what episode we're on, but I think we should be like at about episode 10, right? Or
Oh,
more.
buddy, we're like at episode 17, 18. So
Oh, 17, 18. Okay, so
Now I don't
for
feel so bad for not knowing 7 years, because if you lost count at 17
yeah,
episodes,
man,
I think I'm
that's what I'm
okay then.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
so for the 17th or 18th time, I am single. I'm a single Pringle, and yeah.
Yeah, you had to
That's
repeat
about
it a
it.
lot of times throughout the episodes, but Aubrey's never heard it. Or actually he might have
No, I
from listening.
have.
Yeah, he actually probably has.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like I
but
said, I spent 6 hours with you guys. You guys haven't spent any time with me yet. So
yeah, so definitely this episode is most certainly getting to know Aubrey a lot more. So, but yeah, so for me, I'm sure you know as well, based on the episodes, I am currently in a relationship. I have a fiance, so I have proposed to her already. We've been together for about 4 years and a little bit and some change. So it's been good. I am 21 as well, so you do the math. I've been with her since I was like in early, well, actually mid high school. Actually, I think I would say probably second half of high school. So
okay,
yeah, so it's a good relationship. Definitely also monogamous. I run my relationship based off of my Christian ethics, so that's definitely one
you
thing.
guys are each other's first relationship. I hear that
Yeah,
correctly?
yeah, yeah. That's correct. Yeah, I
Awesome.
was a virgin when I met her, and then obviously this is I wouldn't say this is a dating show, but definitely we get into those topics. So I was a virgin when I met her, and then she was as well when we met. So it's kind of a
Fantastic.
match made in heaven, I think.
Living the dream.
Living the dream, man. I can't fuck it up. But either way, but yeah. So that's good to hear, man. It's good to hear that you're in a relationship for 7 years. Congratulations on spending so long. Are you thinking about marriage or That are you kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, I mean, definitely. In sort of our department, I think marriage is more of a financial question than anything else.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And not in the sense that we couldn't afford marriage or something like that. Just more in the sense of combining assets is a little bit complicated. Sort of figuring that, scheduling that with the really what we're doing financially in our life is part of it. But yeah, we're definitely geared towards that. I joke around. I say we are basically married. Um, yeah, so I mean, I've known her a very, very long time. I've known her for much longer than 7 years I've been dating her. So, we have a solid foundation, and we'll get there soon.
Oh, that's good. Well, the best of luck to you, and blessings to your relationship, and hopefully future marriage, and maybe even future family. So, but with that being said, let's get into the Reddit posts. Unless, oh, sorry, Maddie, how's your day been since the last episode, or how's your time been since the last episode? What's been going on with you, Maddie?
Oh, my time has been good, bro. Ever since our last episode, which was our first in-person recorded episode,
Which has
which
not been posted yet because of me. I
exactly.
apologize. That's my fault.
No, no worries.
Will be posted this Friday. So don't even worry about that.
So life has been good, bro. Ever since then, I went out with my friends Saturday. We all went back to their house. We all had a good time. We continued having fun after. Yesterday, Monday, started the work week. Started the mentality of getting the money, doing what I got to do to succeed, and everything has been good since then, man. I can't really complain, bro. How about you?
That's good, man. It's good to hear. Yeah, no, everything's been chilling for me, man. So yeah, I got my fiance's birthday's coming up, so I'm going to be heading out for a little vacation to Orlando pretty quickly. Just a nice little weekend to spend with her and enjoy. So I'm excited for that. But other than that, it's been quiet, which is always good. And the Lord has blessed me with another day and another episode to do, and this phenomenal guest that we have on today. So I mean, can't complain. That's been me. So with that being said, now without further ado, let's get into the Reddit. We have the first post today is from the "Am I the Asshole" um, Reddit thread. So we're gonna go through these and we're gonna give our opinions on them. Am I the asshole for keeping a relationship with my brother's ex-wife when they have 2 kids together? My brother was married to his wife for 14 years and has 2 boys together, 10 and 12. Their marriage struggled a lot, but they made it last for that long. I became super close with his wife, and she was a wonderful wife and mother to him. I know for a fact my brother cheated on her in the past, even though he won't admit it to me. I'm also 99% sure he left his wife for his current girlfriend, although he won't admit that either. The divorce has been pretty nasty, and restraining orders against him have been placed and everything. They can only speak about the boys. Recently, myself, aunt of the boys, and my mother, grandmother of the boys, made plans to get together with the children and the ex-wife. These plans included staying the night at our house because they live out of town. My brother found out and blew up. He was super pissed off, but we were firm that this was not fair for the children and the kids deserve to see everyone get along for their sake. My brother talked shit about their mother often and even in front of them, and we always vowed to not take sides for the sake of the kids. Of course, everything escalated. Our our other sibling called me basically sorry, wait. She wrote a little weird. Our other sibling called me basically telling me we were terrible, how it was selfish to do this to our brother, and how dare we pick the ex over family. Basically, I was told we were pieces of shit for choosing the children over everything else, and neither of my siblings see it as compassion for the kids. And this is the family, at this, the family is split, and my brother wants nothing to do with us, and neither does our other siblings, apparently. Am I the asshole for letting my brother's ex-wife stay at our house with the kids? Should we not have any sort of relationship with her? In my mind, it's best for the kids to see each side of the family get along with and not hate each other. The divorce has been very traumatizing for both of them. That is the Reddit post. Let's start with Aubrey for this post. You have any thoughts on this? Any initial, I suppose, opinions that go into your mind here?
Yeah, well, it's always tough with these "Am I the asshole" pages because sometimes you want to say you're definitely wrong, but you're not a complete asshole. And it's it's tough to express that, right? It's not always yes or no on the asshole question. Sometimes you're somewhere in the middle. Um, I would say though, leaning towards yes. I think that your brother is your blood. Um, You should have a bond with your brother that's very, very strong. Um, and you shouldn't go against his wishes when it comes to his relationships. I think that it's ultimately up to him. Yeah, that's kind of where I stand. I think blood is the strongest.
Yeah, I would probably have to. I see I get your perspective on that in the sense of it is difficult to kind of say without a shadow of a doubt you're the asshole type shit because there's and then on top of everything else there's also probably for the majority of the stories we hear on Am I the Asshole, there's a lot of details missing that kind of probably would paint the picture a lot more complete. So we have to work with what the details we have here, but based off the details we have, I do understand your sentiment where you say that blood is strong and it's got to be strong and it's his relationship, and I completely agree with that. When I first read this right now, it kind of does rub me the wrong way that she's kind of trying to impose herself on his relationship and his family, because at the end of the day it is his family. It also is her, but to a lesser degree because she's obviously extended family. um, but at the end of the day it's like you said, it's got to be his decision. He is the father, and it is his relationship as well. So I do agree in that aspect. But and then furthermore, I also kind of agree with her where she says that she's got to kind of try to show the kids that there's two sides to the family and they're getting along, and they're trying to be kind to each other and whatnot, and to not live in a toxic environment and whatnot. But it's definitely a tough situation. Maddie, what are your thoughts on this?
No, yeah, I 100% agree. It is a tough situation, especially since they have a 14 and a what was it, 14 and a 10-year-old, if I remember correctly. And I understand that it was a nasty divorce, and and everything that came along with it is understandable. But at the same time, because I'm like, you know me, I'm the mediator. I see both sides. So it is kind of messed up on the part to make plans, especially after a nasty divorce, because we weren't given details, so we don't know if it was harder on the guy or harder on the woman, things of that nature. But with the whole situation with this guy, who's obviously writing it, I do and I don't think he's the asshole. It's kind of like 50-50, because it's like Aubrey said, you know, blood and your brother, you should have a good relationship and respect them, especially after a divorce. 'Cause, that's not something light, especially with kids involved. But at the end of the day, not every family is perfect. There's there's not something saying that they had a good like brotherhood, like a good relationship as brothers, but there's not something saying that they didn't, right? So we can't really, excuse me, we can't really tell from there. But at the same time, this guy's taking the initiative for his nephews, and obviously, divorce is probably hard on the woman since this guy's already with a girl. So of course she's already upset about that. Obviously she's, that's not good for anybody. But I mean, for him to make plans and to do things with his nephews just to make sure and try to be the mediator, to make sure that everyone knows everything is good, that everything is going to be worked out, and that, the only thing that's changed is that mom and dad aren't together. I think that he's doing the good part as a man, and a good figure for these boys.
Well, who are you talking about right now?
Talking about the guy that's writing it, the brother.
No, no, it's a sister.
Oh, damn, this whole time I thought it was the sister. I mean, a brother.
Yeah, no, it's a sister. It's a sister.
Oh,
I thought that at first too, because I mistakenly when heard the title, I thought, oh, this is gonna be scandalous.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought he was sleeping with his brother's ex-wife. I was like,
yeah.
oh. Well, thank you for correcting me. Well, I mean, from that end, she's doing the right thing. She's doing what she has to for her nephews. Uh, and as a woman, I'm sure she's more compassionate towards the woman, especially since her brother has already has a girlfriend and is inconclusive if he was cheating with this woman and then divorced his wife and left her for this girl. So obviously that's really bothersome. But I mean, I think she's doing a good thing as an aunt to make sure that the family's good, to especially for the boys. That's what really matters, especially if the father is talking shit about the mother in front of the kids. It doesn't matter if it's the nastiest divorce ever. That's one thing you shouldn't do, is talk shit about the mother in front of the boys, because that's just gonna cause problems, and probably not have the guys when they grow up to be older as fathers or young men to respect their women because they saw their father talk shit about their mother. So it's like, oh, okay, that's okay to do. And then, that could be a process, a snowball effect down the road. But I mean, my opinion, it's kind of like 50-50 because at the same time, she shouldn't make plans. She should really run it through the father. But at the same time, if he's not taking the initiative for the boys and just to make sure that the families can coexist without any problems, then but for me at least, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think now that I was thinking about it while Maddie was speaking, I kind of have a perspective of like just modern society and the way we kind of interpret relationships and marriage and families and stuff like that. We've kind of gone away from the whole idea of the male's authority and his action, the respect that is due to him as the male of the family, as the patriarch of the family, I suppose. We've kind of gone away from that, so we kind of, in this sense, we see it a lot where the sister is kind of just going against the father's wishes and stuff like that, which, in the past was very frowned upon. But it seems to be much more uh, allowed today or accepted today in today's society, just to go against the father's wishes and things of this nature. He is the father. He should be the one who makes those decisions, and she's kind of just making them herself because she feels like it's right in her eyes or whatever the case. So now that I think about it more, so she's definitely the asshole. But that's my final verdict. What about yours, Aubrey? What is your final verdict on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this one. I have a sibling. And the relationship I have with my sibling is very much so, I don't care what you do. You go ahead and kill somebody, I'll show you where the ocean is, right? That's the relationship I have with him. I'm not there to, arbitrate between, oh, who was right and who was wrong in the divorce. It's like, are you kidding me? That's your brother or that's your sister, right? It's not your position to be arbitrating anything, right? You're sort of bound to that person to help them, whatever the situation may be. And I think when dealing with someone else's family, it's your role to just pretty much obey their instruction. If they say, I don't want you to talk to this person, that's pretty much it. I mean, if I have a brother, if he told me, "Hey, I don't want you talking to this girl, my ex girlfriend, my ex wife, my cool, she's dead to me. No conversation to be had. You can manage your own kids, right? You're their father. I'm not their kid's father, right? Or in this case, I'm not their kid's mother. So you have to manage your own family, and it's my job as a sibling to butt out, listen to what you say, play the role you want me to play in your family, not have you play an outcast role in dynamic that I'm creating, right? And I could tell even from the writing that, she's saying, "Oh, I think he cheated, but he won't admit to it." That to me already describes a fault in the relationship that's problematic. That, I know with me and my sibling, could tell him anything. Could tell him horrible things I've done, fantastic things that I've done. It's judgment free, or there may be judgment granted, but there's a solitude in the sense that I know that it is the safest place that I can speak about things and not face repercussions and not have somebody go against what my judgment is in my family. So my answer is just you have to sort of obey the law of family. Your sibling is going to be the most similar person to you on the planet, right? Even more similar to you genetically speaking than your own kids. Um, yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say she's an asshole. I think that's a little bit extreme, but yeah, I don't really agree with what she's doing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with the whole. I definitely agree with your sentiment about the siblings and stuff like that. It definitely does. It also seems like she has some sort of resentment for him too, considering that she just automatically assumes without actually knowing for sure. It's kind of like a guilty till proven innocent kind of thing with her own sibling, where it's like, oh yeah, he definitely cheated on her. And just like you said, even if he did, I would definitely, kind of give him the whole um brotherly, like, hey bro, you shouldn't have done that. It's kind of a dickish move, but at the end of the day I would still hold his back, and I'd still support him, and still be there for him, because he's my brother at the end of the day. But
Absolutely. One other thing I want to add to that is no one knows what a relationship is if you're not in it. Right? Which
exactly,
is the
yeah.
other thing is like you're intervening as someone who's not in the relationship to try and judge who's at fault for the relationship. You have no idea. But what happens behind closed doors is completely private to the people involved. So that's another side point, I guess.
Yeah, she only sees what she's able to see, and then everything else behind that she has no idea, but she just kind of makes assumptions, and automatically assumes that those assumptions are the correct assumptions or the more correct assumptions than the other ones. She's just kind of forming her own conclusions and kind of running based off of that. And she's like, to a certain degree, she's, at least to me personally, the way I see it is she's kind of doing this um, in spite of her brother and his wishes and stuff, which is obviously never a good thing, especially since he's the one who is the father of those kids. Like you said, it's like, oh, I'm gonna have you fit into what my idea of your family should be. You know what I mean? Which is obviously not a good thing. Um, but yeah, no. To me personally, I think she definitely is the asshole. The more I think about it, the more I get there. Um, but yeah, that's me. Maddie, do you have any final verdict on this one or anything else to say?
Not really, buddy, because it's like I'm more neutral. Like I understand both sides, so I'm like I'm torn between 50-50 because Aubrey made great points, which I do 100% agree with, and then you made some good points. So it's kind of like I'm still torn between it because at the end of the day it's like Aubrey said, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. You don't know what's being said. You're only able to see what's being shown. You don't know if it's hell behind those closed doors. So I'm still torn a little 50-50 between it.
So you would say that she's not the asshole, but she's also not the asshole.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So does anybody else have any final thoughts to say on this, or do you want, or we can move it on?
I'm good moving on.
What about you, Maddie?
I'm good, bro.
All right, let's get to the next one. So this is relationship advice this time. My 26 male girlfriend, 26 female, is going on a yacht without me. Do I break up with her? Question mark. I, 26 male, and my girlfriend, 26 female, started dating about a year back. We worked together at a firm that I left to be with her, as we had a policy against dating coworkers. She makes me happy. She is smart, funny, caring, and motivated. A thorn in our relationship has been this guy she was with. Though not in a relationship, let's call him Bob. She tells me it's been about 2 years since they've been together. This guy has more money than me and invited my girl, as well as inviting me by name, to a huge Airbnb with a bunch of other friends. But he also invited my girl to a yacht party the following day with a bunch of her other attorneys, though not me. I am not close to him, met him once. They maintain a friendship, and she does contract translation work for Spanish-speaking clients for his firm that he co-owns with another attorney. Let's call him James. The rental is for 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., technically, but my girl told me it might go over. My girl has reassured me when I ask her she would never cheat on me, and she has integrity and wants to say she has never done anything like that. Fine, I trust her, but I am reaching a point of ending things because I find this disrespectful. Even if you are not, and I believe her, you are not putting yourself in a place where that might just happen, especially with how boat parties are. Another thing that got me heated. She texted this guy, Bob. She would be shaking ass. She shared the messages with me, with Bob saying, no, she would not, and she is with me. And who would she shake ass to? She replied to the wind. I think this is disrespectful to me. What message are you trying to give off when you text some other guy this, especially one that you have been with in the past? If you want any more context, let me know. I'm not asking a question. I just want advice on how to handle this and if I should break things off. Thank you. Um, Maddie, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
My brother, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to interrupt or cause anything, but I don't know why on my end it kept chopping up.
Aubrey, did you experience the same thing with my audio there?
Yeah, I got a slight chopping towards the end, but I got the gist of what you were saying. I think I heard enough to make an opinion.
All right, okay. So, Aubrey, what do you think about this one?
I mean, yeah, it's a
Oh, so
no go for
just
sure.
sorry to interrupt you real quick. Maddie, I'm gonna send you the link to this one, so if you want to read through it real quick, so that you can have an opinion when Aubrey's finished. Um, but yeah, Aubrey, continue. Go ahead.
It's crazy, but it's funny because one of the things I sent you guys was an opinion Maddie had that I thought I was going to come up as a point of disagreement. That my opinion is that men and women are just not friends. That's not a thing that happens anywhere in nature. We could go deeper into why that is, but I think this story is a perfect example. Um,
Yeah,
First of
that's
all,
definitely
yeah, I'm gonna start with, with the first thing that I noticed is he said he left the firm basically because they started dating. I would say that that's red flag number 1.
yeah, that's what I
Um,
was thinking too.
yeah, you cannot be quitting your job or leaving your job or switching jobs solely for the purpose of dating somebody you're with. That to me signals that you value the, basically the potential relationship more than the actual job, right? Um, and we all know that really a lot of what men's roles are and a lot of what their worth is attached to is work, and to degrade that, again, for a sort of random girl that you haven't even started dating yet. I think that that's completely ridiculous, to say the least. But then again, yeah. So I say men and women can't be friends, and no later than a paragraph later, she's shaking her ass on a yacht, right? Um, yeah, I mean, not one part of that is acceptable. I think, can this be redeemed? That's a big shoulder shrug. Can you teach this person how to act responsibly? It's possible. It's possible that you talk to this girl and you say, "Hey, listen, that's not going to fly," right? I don't know if did they say they were in a law firm? Was that what I heard correctly?
It seemed that way. He kind of just said firm, but I'm assuming he meant law firm. Cause
Yeah,
then,
I
because
mean,
then he followed on by saying with a bunch of other attorneys and stuff like that. So yeah,
yeah, I mean, look, it could be a law firm, it could be a financial firm, but let's assume law firm for the sake of this. If there's other attorneys, right? At what point do you, as a guy, go, "Hey, I'm a lawyer. I'm a working professional. I can, if he's not in great shape, he can get into great shape. He can figure that out. I'm sure he's making decent money. Lawyers generally do." At what point do you say, "Yeah, I'm just not going to tolerate my girlfriend shaking her ass on a yacht for some other guy to something that I'm not even invited to?" Which is the secondary point. Oh, they're just friends. They're great friends. Why isn't the boyfriend invited? Because I'll say this right now. I don't have female friends, and even if I did, theoretically, if it was possible, as a friend, I'd say, yes, have your boyfriend come. It's a yacht. There's more than enough space for another guy. This seems to me like some sort of power play, some sort of maybe jealousy move. And again, I don't know the girl. It could be because she wants to incite jealousy. It could be because she's clueless. It could be because she doesn't see a problem with any of this. But, my answer is absolutely not. I mean, what are we even talking about? Let's leave alone the cheating. Let's assume that she's not going to cheat. The whole thing is disrespectful. The whole thing is emasculating. And if I'm a guy in that relationship, I say, look, I don't really care what you're doing. It's emasculating to me. I'm not going to tolerate that. I don't need to tolerate that. I'm a working professional. Kick rocks, have fun on the water, and when you turn 35 and have regrets, don't cry about it.
I completely agree. I agree with literally 99% of what you just said. Um, when it comes to the whole disagreement about guys and girls can't be friends, we'll definitely get into that after the Reddit stuff. I that's literally one of the things I have on the I suppose the show notes. So we'll definitely get into that. I want to explore that disagreement a little bit more. But when it comes to this, 100%, I think the simple fact that he quit his job in order to be with her, and she didn't quit her job in order to be with him, kind of already started the relationship off on a bad note, in the sense of he kind of took the more feminine position, and she took the more masculine position to kind of stick with her career, and that kind of situation. Just off the bat, it was already kind of roles reversing. So that's, like you said, that's definitely a big red flag. Maddie, you have any? Did you get a chance to read the poster?
Yeah, I was reading it while Aubrey was talking, and I was getting more of an opinion. I 100% agree. This is completely wrong. In this type of instance, men and women can't be friends. In this type of instance, because from what he said or what he wrote, that they were together more than 2 years ago, right? Guys and girls cannot be friends with exes. You cannot be friends with your ex because, one, that means that you both never really loved each other, or there's still feelings involved. There's no way that if you break up with somebody, even if it was a short amount of time, you can't be friends with them, because it's not going to allow it's like Aubrey said, it's emasculating, because I'm sure any of your I'm sure your fiancés wouldn't want you to be friends with any of your exes and be texting them to go to a beach party or a boat party with a bunch of other girls. I'm pretty sure your fiancés would say, "Hell no, you go there, we're done." I'm pretty sure that's how it would go. And it's the same. And it's in this situation. I don't think he should have left his career, his job, for a woman. Unless it was getting serious. But even then, who the hell cares about dating coworkers? You can't be fired for that in today's society. So that was like a really stupid move on his end. Um, but the whole thing in this type of situation, since they are technically exes, that's not right. Especially going to a boat party. Everyone knows you go to a boat party, they're drinking, sex, probably drugs, a bunch of shit that's going on. What happens on the boat stays on the boat type shit. So that type of stuff happening is unacceptable, especially if you're in a committed relationship. And to be texting this guy, her ex, which this guy said is he's richer, he's more this than that than this guy. That's unacceptable. For your woman to be texting another guy, oh yeah, I'm gonna be shaking my ass on your boat. That's fucked up. That she has no respect for you as her man or as a man in general. So she doesn't respect your authority or your just you at all. So it's kind of fucked up. He's not the asshole. She's fucked up for that. That would have, for me, if I'm being honest, I would have broken up with her immediately as soon as I found out she was texting him. That I'm gonna be shaking my ass. That's completely disrespectful. Because number one, this is the way humans work. I'm gonna give you guys an example that one of my close friends gives me. Don't think of an elephant. Question: what did you guys just think of?
I thought
Yeah,
of
the
like
elephant.
I thought of like a zebra, to be honest.
Aubrey, you thought of an elephant, right?
Yeah. And I've
Exactly.
heard that before.
If you, even though she didn't, it doesn't make any sense. But the point is, if I told you to not think of this or to think of this, that's all you're gonna think about. So if your girl's texting another man, especially if they've had a sexual past, I'm gonna be shaking my ass. The only thing he's gonna be thinking about, this other guy, is her shaking her ass. He's gonna be thinking, "Ooh, if I get her some drinks, if her boyfriend's not there, we can probably hook up, and the guy will never know this and that."
Yeah, it's that whole
So
telling
that's
telling a child not to touch the cookie jar. They're gonna
exactly, they're
fucking
gonna
touch it.
touch the cookie jar. So this whole thing is a big ass red flagging situation that this guy definitely needs to have a reality check with his girl, or just cut that shit off immediately, because that's just completely disrespectful. You as a woman, don't disrespect your man by telling another man who you've had previous relations with that, oh, I'm gonna be shaking my ass. That's completely disrespectful. You don't say that. You know,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
that's pretty much saying she doesn't care about you as a man.
absolutely, and just one other thing I just thought of too is, like, to break the Reddit third wall here, right? What kind of gaslighting has to go on for you to feel like, "I have this complaint, and I need to double check with Reddit to make sure I'm not the asshole on this, or to make sure that I'm not out of bounds on this?" It's like, what when are you gonna be out of bounds? "Oh, I'm unhappy. My girlfriend got fucked on a yacht." I mean, what's the
Yeah.
threshold before
Am I am I just
you yeah, I
insecure?
mean yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't need to come to Reddit to ask that question. Just, look in your pants, make sure you have balls, and handle your business. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think the whole like I said, it's just the initial decision to leave his job in order to pursue this woman
That's
automatically,
crazy.
yeah, it automatically changed the dynamic of the relationship to say, I will submit myself to you, the man being the one who submits himself to the woman. Like in this instance, I, being the man, am going to submit myself to you, or at the very least, I'm going to do a submissive thing by quitting my job in order to be with you, which is already off the bat just changing the fucking roles of the relationship and going to show that I'm going to be the submissive one here, and you're going to, which at that point, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even blame her for wanting to do whatever the fuck she wants to do. She's not going to listen to what you say. She's not going to respect you because at the end of the day, you didn't initially start the relationship with that, I suppose, expectation for a certain level of respect that would be earned by somebody who in this case she would have to submit to him, but that wasn't the initial expectation. So at that point, she's starting to do this type of shit. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'd probably just discard the relationship. And like you said, like Aubrey said, at the end of the day, he's a lawyer, probably making good money. Worry about yourself. Become a bigger lawyer. Get to the bigger law firms, make more money, more. Try to continue to grow in the ladder of your field, and eventually the women will come, the relationship and the family, whatever it is that you want in life will come at the end of the day. But this girl is just, she most certainly is not it, bro. She seems like an independent, modern woman who clings to her career and likes to party and do all that type of twerking and shit, So at the end of the day, at the end of the day, whatever happens after this is completely his responsibility, his fault. So, but yeah, that's my perspective on it. I think if I were to give him, the whole idea of this Reddit advice, I'd say break up with her, bro. I'll be honest, break up with her. Aubrey, what would you, this is your brother right here. What is your advice to your brother right here? He comes at you with something like this.
I think, I wouldn't even necessarily say break up about it, because I think the underlying problems are, look, at the end of the day, right? What's the metaphor I can make without getting in trouble on this? If I People don't get treated the way they deserve to be treated. People get treated the way they tolerate being treated, right? So you're coming into this relationship just like you said, right? And the dynamic is totally off. The dynamic is totally problematic. And now what should I advise this person here? Oh, go break up with this girl. Why? For the dynamic you created? She's not wrong for acting the way she acted, in the sense that you've allowed that to happen. So there needs to be a deep dive in the person's psychology as to, why do you base your life decisions around women in that sort of way? Why do you feel the need to go ahead and validate feelings that you have about a woman's behavior on public forums, right? Why is that the syndrome going on? Because the reality is you can, they always say you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. That's a common expression. I don't necessarily agree with that, right? I don't think that that's even necessarily true. I think that, you know, Caesar Milan comes, and all of a sudden, the dog that was out of control and misbehaving and terrible is now the most friendly dog in the world, because at the end of the day, he walks in and commands respect. He walks in and creates the dynamic. He doesn't allow the dynamic to be created for him, setting up the foundation. So, is my advice if this is my brother, is my advice, yeah, dump her. She's for the streets. You could go that route, but that's not solving the underlying problem. The underlying problem is you're fostering this behavior in the people you meet. So my advice to that person would be, maybe it's not going to work out with this one, unless, again, you can locate your balls and say, look, I'm an attorney. I probably make six figures. If I don't, I should soon, right? I don't know how, maybe early on in his career he's not, but it doesn't matter. If he isn't, he should soon. At the end of the day, we're talking about the upper echelons of men. If he's not in great shape, then I'd counsel him on that and say, look, you need to get yourself in order. Don't blame the women for mistreating you. Blame yourself for being a person that tolerates being mistreated. Because again, I'll end with, we don't get what we deserve. We get what we tolerate. So that's what I would say on that.
I completely agree. I think just like, I think there would be two phases to my advice to this guy, now that I'm thinking about it. First and foremost, break up with her, because chances are she's probably not going to change if you've been in a relationship with her for about a year, and it's kind of had this dynamic where she doesn't have this intrinsic understanding that she's going to have to respect you in that submissive way. Probably best to kind of cut loose in that sense, at least in my opinion. But furthermore, you gotta get some standards for yourself and hold to those standards. I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of guys make, and I've seen it firsthand with a lot of my close friends and stuff like that, where I have these standards of, she can't be doing OnlyFans, or she can't be dressing immodestly, or she can't be talking to a bunch of guys, she can't have guy friends. But then she has a guy friend, and you're like, oh, it's whatever because she's been with him for a long time. Or she's dressing immodestly, but oh, it's whatever because at least she's not showing too much of her ass. Or she has an OnlyFans, but oh, it's whatever because at least she's just doing bikini pics. It's like, you continuously let your boundaries get trampled on like that. You're not going to create or have the best relationships in your life. And when things go south, like Aubrey said, and like I said in the previous monologue, I suppose, it'll be completely his fault for maintaining that standard in that context. But yeah, most certainly break up with the girl, at least in my opinion, and focus on yourself. Figure out what standards you have and hold those standards to every relationship you have in the future. And if a girl goes beyond those standards and she's not willing to change, just that's your cue to fucking dip and go to the next one. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Matt, do you have anything else to say, buddy?
I would tell this guy dip, and next time talk to see if you have any, if any of your friends, bro, for some advice. Even though this type of shit wouldn't really need advice, you should already know what to do as a secure man. But hey, bro, if you're listening, if she's still pulling this shit, leave her if you haven't already, bro. Don't put up with shit. Set boundaries, man.
Yeah, and now that Maddie's kind of bringing up the whole security thing, Aubrey, I have a question, man. What would you be your response to somebody who would say if this guy were to care? Because I've heard this a lot. If this guy were to care about his girl going on that yacht without him, he's just being insecure. What would be your response to that?
I mean, I think that's completely ridiculous. It has nothing to do with insecurity, right? You can be completely secure in yourself within your own boundaries, right? I can say, no, you do this, I'm leaving. It has nothing to do with me worrying. I'm not worried if I'm willing to break up with you. You think I'm up late at night worrying about if you're getting fucked if I'm willing to break up with you? Of course not. Has nothing to do with insecurity. It's about boundaries. And, I feel like every day I turn on the news or every day I watch a YouTube video and men's boundaries are insecurities. Women's boundaries, right? I mean, and that's the dialogue. So, for me, it's a yacht. She's talking about shaking her ass. I mean, what's the male equivalent of this? That's the question I have for women, right? What is the male equivalent? What does a man have to do for you to go? No, that's not you being insecure. That's him being fucking ridiculous.
What, a
And
man going to a strip club type shit?
I mean, look, you could say like going to a strip club, but even at a strip club, I mean, there's boundaries in place. There's sort of rules that are going on there. I don't put it on the same comparison. Look, I'm not if I went to a strip club, it's not to go see my fucking ex-girlfriend, right? So,
yeah, plus those
I,
women who are stripping don't really want the guy like a lot of the time. He's just a client type shit. But
yeah, I mean, look, I personally don't go to strip clubs, but um, I've heard some people say, "Hey, look, at a strip club, it's sort of anything goes for the right dollar amount," and I've heard people say, "No, there's sort of well-respected establishments and they have rules and sort of boundaries and things like that." I don't really know the ins and outs of that too much, but what I will say is just the equivalent is, hey, can I go hang out with my ex-girlfriend on a yacht? On my yacht. Is that appropriate? Yeah, I'm not inviting you, my girlfriend. I'm inviting my ex-girlfriend to a yacht and you can't come.
and
I
she's gonna
mean,
twerk in the air.
yeah, yeah, and
Huh.
she's twerking and her boyfriend isn't coming and it's completely fine and I mean, again, I don't know what point we just say, it's not an insecurity, it's a boundary and boundaries are not even just okay to have, they're necessary to have. We need boundaries to define things, right? So,
Yeah, wouldn't you agree with the statement? The lack of boundaries, or at least strong boundaries, shows more insecurity than actually having strong boundaries and sticking to them.
absolutely. I mean, I think that it's the person who is afraid that their partner is going to leave them, right? And that they'll never find another partner. That's the person who has no boundaries. And that person's the least trustworthy person of all. Because and I've seen this time and time again where let's put it this way, right? This kid is in law school, right? He's a nobody. He's a college kid. Maybe he's got student loans. He's in average shape. He's probably not even in great shape. He's got to have his head in a book and be studying constantly. He's not looking like Mr. Fit, Mr. Muscles. He's looking like Mr. Study Hall, right? Only focuses on his class, right? And so he's living in that frame of that's the way I interact with women up until a point where, all right, now he's out of college and now he has his pick of the litter to say. That's the most dangerous man of all, right? The man who goes, "Oh, I can't install boundaries because I don't know my value yet." And then what happens when this girl's on a yacht and some other girl comes over to him and says, "Oh, I would never treat you that way. I would never do that to you." He's more likely to cheat than anybody, right? And so him not having boundaries, it's made both of them worse. Literally everyone is worse. And when the day comes where he's no longer afraid of just being alone, when that day comes, shit, the jury is out on what he might do. Maybe he's a man whore, maybe he's, doing ridiculous behaviors, maybe he's cheating, maybe he's doing this and that. Nobody even knows what he's capable of because right now he's under the basis of, "Oh, I'm so lucky to be with this girl. I don't know if I should let her twerk on a yacht, and I'm worried she's gonna leave me, and it's just me being insecure, and I need to go on Reddit and ask people." So I he's the most dangerous man of all if he doesn't have those boundaries, because again, he's at risk of doing cheating himself when another person shows that he doesn't have to engage with that.
I completely agree. I completely agree. Well, I don't know if you guys are ready to move on or if you have any final thoughts on this.
Yeah, buddy, let's go ahead and move on.
All right, wonderful. So this is gonna be the last one that we're gonna do. The last Reddit post. It's gonna be relationship advice. Um, again, am I 27 female overreacting to a secret my husband 28 male just casually let slip on a date? My husband and I have been married for 6 years, together for 12. The thing is, the thing I have always loved most about this man is that he adores me and he is always 100% honest with me. Well, we just got home from a date. I'm still sitting in the car wondering if I'm crazy, but there was a time when we were about 23 years old where I really wanted a baby. We tried so hard for about a year, but it never happened. Honestly, I can admit now that the idea was out there, and I'm genuinely glad we didn't conceive then because our lives are so great now, and at this point, I don't even think I want kids. That's a yikes. Anyways, on our date, he mentioned that time period where we were trying and let slip that every day before we did it, he would jerk off so that there would be less of a risk that it would actually happen. I think he admitted this because I was just talking about how glad I was that we didn't have kids, so he felt comfortable admitting that. I was too taken aback and started crying mid-date. I know it sounds dramatic, but I feel like I just learned that he's never actually been 100% honest with me, like I thought. Why not just talk to me then and say, hey, I don't think it's the right time instead of manipulating me? We did it every single day during that time, and now I'm just questioning everything. He's acting like it's no big deal and that I'm just overreacting, but I feel extremely hurt right now. So, am I blowing this out of proportion? There is an update, so I suppose we'll first give our kind of initial opinions, initial thoughts on this, and then I'll read the update. But Maddie, what do you think when it comes to this situation here?
Well, I don't know if this is scientifically right, but I don't think it matters if you jerk off before you have sex for
All right, but let's just assume it does. Let's just assume. What do you think about this situation? Is she overreacting? What do you think he's an asshole? What do you think?
I mean, I don't I don't think so because I mean at the end of the day, if they were trying when they were young, then fast forward 4 or 5 years, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm good. I don't want. Let's just live our lives and just do us." I think that kind of is selfish in a way because I mean, it is and it isn't selfish in a way, in my opinion, because if you guys were trying and trying and trying for a year, a couple years ago, and it just didn't work, so you guys just gave up, trying, and then you just got comfortable not having a child. In my opinion, the whole point of getting with someone is to get married and have children, to procreate in the name of the Lord, right? Which I'm sure Matt, you can agree. Um, that's the whole point. So I mean, not wanting to have kids now because everything's going well and everything's great, you guys are comfortable. I mean, I could understand the comfortability. Your financial status is like fine. You guys are able to make it through without having to pay, kids' medical bills, school, lunch, necessities and things like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, bro, she wants to have kids. You guys should have kids, especially if you tried already. You know, that's the whole point of marriage. You don't just get married just to, at least in my opinion, this is me. You don't just get married just to have someone to die with. You know, you get married to have kids, have them live your legacy, have them live their lives, procreate, have your name carry on. Not just get married. Oh, didn't work. Trying to have kids. Fuck it. Let's just wait until we retire and then die. To me, that's not the point of marriage, bro.
Yeah, I think the original idea for relationships and sexual relationships and romantic relationships and all that, marriage and all these different things, was originally obviously to perpetuate the species, the human race, and to continue the human race and whatnot. That was the original idea for it. We've kind of moved it to be something different, to be more of like a feelings thing, which at the end of the day, that's one of the aspects to it, I suppose. But we've kind of also moved away from marriage. We've moved away from traditionalism, and we've adopted more of a modern view on relationships and marriage and things of this nature, which at the end of the day, uh, could lead to bad things. It can, and depending on how you run your life and whatnot. But she learned that she didn't want kids. I think that if she would have had kids, she probably would be saying at this point in time that she's glad she had kids, and she feels like if she wouldn't have had kids, it'd probably be a lot worse. So, at the end of the day, when it comes to the whole, is she overreacting? In my opinion, she 100% is overreacting. And I think the guy, I'm not gonna lie, I think he's pretty intelligent, bro. Like, manipulation is a bit of a buzzword there, but I think that he kind of worked the situation pretty well, I suppose. He got sex almost every single day, and he obviously didn't want kids, which I think is probably a character flaw within himself. But he didn't want to kind of break that to her because she was probably really excited about it, and she was probably really upbeat about it and stuff, and he probably didn't want to just tear her down. So, in the mission of protecting her emotions and her feelings, he did that. So, I mean, I think she's probably a little bit overreacting about this. Aubrey, what are your thoughts on this, man?
This will actually be my first point of disagreement. I think I don't think she's overreacting at all. I don't think she's mourning the inability maybe to have a child. I think she's mourning the fact that she realized that the person she's with is manipulating and lying, right? Which is a totally different discovery, right? I mean, she said she's glad she didn't have kids. It turned out for the best. Okay, we could probe a little bit of that. Maybe there's a little bit of, hey, she's learning to come to terms with her situation based on what her perception of the situation was essentially, right? So she might have just been, hey, I guess we're not able to have kids, and she learned to be happy with that. Or it could have been the opposite, where, you know, secretly she still maybe wants to have kids, right? What she's really mourning is the fact that the person she was with was just lying consistently. I mean, this guy is, I, I mean, he's, handling his business before he's in the dynamic so that he doesn't have kids. I mean, again, going to what Maddie said, it definitely lowers your risk, but absolutely does not negate your risk for a pregnancy. Um, but secondly, yeah, like I think it's a completely appropriate thing to mourn the fact that, hey, you thought you were in a relationship with this honest person who cared about you and who, really was in alignment with you. And now you're waking up going, oh no, this person manipulated the situation. They were okay with lying to me and then sleeping with me and then lying again and then sleeping again and lying again and sleeping again, doing this over and over throughout the course of a year. Yeah, that's problematic. You should be concerned. I think that I don't know if counseling is the answer. I don't know what the answer is, but ultimately you have to come to terms with the fact that you're with someone who regularly lies to you, and you have to be um, either learning to live with it or not. But you at least have to be aware that that's who you're with, and yeah, that's something worthy of mourning for sure.
Yeah, I think this definitely is one of the first points of disagreement here. I think that that one sentence or that one point where she said, "I was too taken aback and started crying mid-date. I know it sounds dramatic, but I feel like I just learned that he's never been 100% honest with me like I thought." I think it's kind of delusional just off the bat to think that your partner is going to be 100% honest with you in any relationship at all. I think there's always going to be things that you say that are not truths, so I suppose lies in this case, in order to spare somebody's feelings, or white lies that you tell in order to protect somebody's emotions or whatever the case. I think in every relationship known to mankind, there's going to be lying at some point in time. So for her to believe that her husband was 100% honest to her throughout their entire 12 years of being together, and then finding out that he wasn't for one of those years, at least in one instance, and she got so taken aback by the fact that he wasn't the 100% honest guy that she thought he was. I think it's kind of just unrealistic standard that she held for him, and then realized that he didn't hold that, or he didn't meet. I suppose go up to that standard, and then she was disappointed to the point where it devastated her. So I think it's pretty dramatic in that sense of she's holding a belief of her relationship and her man that's not realistic at all and doesn't pair with reality, with how relationships go. And I think I'm gonna give the guy the benefit of the doubt for the most part. I think that what the reason why he was doing it was most likely to spare her feelings and not, at least for me personally, in my experience with my relationship, women can definitely be very excited about having kids to the point where it's like they're like super happy about the thought of it and everything like that. So I think that if he was, lying to her in that sense, it would probably be to spare her feelings and spare her disappointment and whatnot, which, obviously maybe could have gone a little bit differently. He could have um, done it a little better, but I think to the point where you'd be devastated to that sense, on top of the fact that at this point you don't even care about the whole children thing. It's just the fact that he wasn't 100% honest with you. It's kind of a little bit unreasonable in that sense of believing that he would even be 100% honest is kind of unrealistic. But that's my perspective on it. But yeah, I think that she's definitely, I think she's blowing it out of proportion a little bit to a certain degree, where she needs to look at it and be like, you know what, this happened a while back. He was probably trying to protect my emotions. Let me chill out here. Considering he's been with me for this long and probably treated me very well. Besides this thing that I just learned. But either way, that's my perspective. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say.
Yeah, I would respond to that just quickly. I'll let Maddie chime in a second. Sorry about that.
No, go
But
ahead. Go ahead.
don't you think that that they're like with a lie, right? First of all, I think lying is just among the worst things you could do as a partner, right? I think it's you have the one negative of the lie, and then you have the second negative of it. It's not just a dishonesty about the situation; it's a dishonesty about the entire situation, right? So it's not just a dishonesty of, "Hey, I did this thing and didn't tell you." It's, "Oh, you never wanted to have kids," right? Which if I was with a let's change the roles, right? Suppose you got married to somebody, right? And you were trying to have kids with them, and they didn't tell you that they were incapable of having kids. I mean, you base your whole life off of having kids, right? When you're preparing financially, you're preparing physically, you're preparing mentally. The way you work is aligned with that, right? You have to gear your schedule around the theory of having kids and school schedules, and you're picking what neighborhood to live in based on where schools are, right? You're doing all of these things to prepare to have kids. And for somebody to be in that world together, two people are in that setting together, and one of them is just, I'm going to do whatever I can to not make this happen. Why weren't you just honest about it? Why not just say this wasn't something you wanted to do? It's as a woman, right? I think part of the attraction to a man is trusting that this person can captain a ship and this person can lead me ashore. This person is somebody that I can follow as a leader. And if the leader is lying to you, there's no leader to follow. And that's how you end up being a girl that's crying, saying, I can't trust this person. I based my life around things that weren't true. And now, when the next thing comes up, how do I know that this person is not manipulating me again? And I don't think that that's a good dynamic for a relationship. And like you said, look, do I think that every relationship is 100% honest all of the time? Absolutely not, right? I don't think you can really go after a man who, his wife comes out and she says, "Do I look fat in this dress?" And that man answers that question dishonestly and say, all right, time to, toss this guy to the wolves. He's horrible, right? But there's a gradients of lies, right? I think there's lies which are white lies, small lies, lies that just kind of keep things rolling along, which I don't agree with. I think you should be honest at all costs all the time. But there's that, and there's, hey, we're basing our life off of lies, right? This is a giant bullshit story that you're saying, I want to have family, I want to have kids, I want to move in a certain place, I want to work a certain job, I want to gear up my life this way. And for me, if you don't have that level of trust that at least you know the direction you're heading with your partner, then to me the relationship is a waste of time. That's just my opinion. And if I found out that my partner either was doing what she could to prevent having kids and didn't want to have kids, or um, couldn't have kids and was never honest about that situation, if my partner was doing any of those things, I would be calling the whole marriage into question for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can 100% agree on that. No, sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, Maddie. Go ahead.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I can 100% agree with everything Arby said. You're the whole basis of the relationship is finding out whether or not you're gonna have kids, and finding out, if you're lying and you can't, and then you find out that either she's infertile, or you're infertile, and that's kind of the whole basis, especially once you're married, because it's not like if you're dating and you're like maybe 4 or 5 months in, and it's like, hey, so do you want to have kids? No. Do you? Yeah. Is this a deal breaker? Yeah. And then you could just break it off and then whatever. find somebody who will. But since you're in a marriage, one, you're spiritually bound, you're legally bound. So it's not like you can just leave. Now you're gonna have that problem that's always gonna pester, and it's always gonna cause problems. At least from pretty much how normal relationships are for the rest of the time that you're together, because you guys are gonna go out to eat. You're gonna see a happy young family with young kids. You're gonna go to the park. You're gonna go to Disney, Universal. You're gonna see young parents around your age with kids that would be around that age. So it's all about the honesty. Communication and honesty for me is what makes or breaks the relationship. That's what the basic foundation should be, not attraction, not physical attraction, or attraction towards personality or whatever. It's about respect, honesty, and communication. Because if you don't have any of those, then there's no point in having a you'll never have a genuine relationship. You'll just have a friend. You have to have all of those aspects, and you can't disregard someone's feelings and lie to them regardless of how your personal vendetta is. You have to be honest about it, because you don't want to waste somebody's time, especially in this type of situation where this person wants to have kids, you can't, and then you just lie about it. So because it's that's kind of like a very big moral dilemma in my eyes.
Yeah, I think just to kind of respond to the arguments you guys are presenting, I think first and foremost, people lie, and just like I think one of my biggest, or not one of my biggest, but one of my deal breakers would be like if a girl let's say I was in the dating market, if a girl I was on a date with had like 10 plus bodies, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm good, and that'd be kind of a deal breaker for me. But she could definitely lie and tell me she's a virgin, and I would never know, right? But in the situation where we're assuming honesty when it comes to different deal breakers, for example, I say, oh, one of the things I want is to have kids. I'm going to assume that the person who I'm in a relationship with is going to be telling me I want kids as well, and obviously that would make sense. But either way, I think that even if he didn't want kids, which it seemed like he didn't want kids, obviously, the possibility of having the kids regardless, and the fact that she wanted kids, if the kids would have come, I would probably go and assume that they would raise the kids together and have that type of family dynamic either way, regardless of whether or not he wanted them or not. I think kids have a way of bringing out the inner adult in a lot of people who aren't really there yet. Um, but also, I think that a different to one of the points that Aubrey had said, one of the key tenets of being a leader and knowing what a leader is being able to discern what things are on a need to know basis. Because not everything should be things that we should divulge to the people in who we're leading and whatnot. I think a lot of the things that we have to deal with as leaders should be things that we can discern whether or not we have to actually um, say this to the other person or not. When it comes to this specific instance, I think that, like I said before, he probably could have handled it a lot better. But the way he handled it, I don't think it's to the point where she should be, blowing it to the point where she's blowing it right now. Um, and like I said, no relationship's going to be 100% honest. I do think there is a hierarchy of the severity of different lies, of course. But I don't believe that this lie is to the point where it's super problematic. I think that at the end of the day, what they were doing could have led to children either way, and I think it would have made them parents regardless. But all we can really do is assume as to how things would have gone or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I mean, that's me. I don't know if you guys have anything further to say, or if you guys want to move it on.
I'll just say one small counterpoint. I don't think crying is necessarily blowing it out of proportion either. I didn't really hear about any of the other actions she took. She didn't say I left them and I did this and I did that. I cried about it. I was upset. I don't think that's blowing it out of proportion. I mean, a lot of girls cry over a lot of things. Sometimes it's not all that severe. And I think I don't think crying about this is the end of the world. I think that she just probably needs to talk to her husband and figure that out. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah, I agree with that point. I think that she definitely, if she feels really strongly about this, she should go to her husband and speak about it and have a actual good conversation about it. But I do think I think the part where I say she's overreacting is in the aspect, not necessarily the crying, because it's okay to be upset about certain things, especially as women. They're I suppose it's more likely to
Yeah,
get.
I mean, look, my girlfriend cried when her favorite contestant on Hell's Kitchen won. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think crying is yeah.
Yeah, no. When it comes
If
to women, especially, crying is definitely a big reaction to certain things that to us men probably would not be the same. So holding a different standard in that case would be reasonable. But I think the part where I say that she's kind of overreacting a little bit is to the point where she brought it to Reddit and kind of aired out her relationship laundry to the masses on whoever's going to be replying to her on Reddit and allowing other people's opinions of her relationship and her situation to, I suppose, dictate her opinion, which obviously it would naturally that's what would happen. So, I think at that point it's a little bit of an overreaction. At that point, I think the thing that she should have reacted with would be to have the conversation with her husband and figure that out. But yeah,
I'll agree with that too. I don't think Reddit is the best place for. Don't base what you do off of what the people of Reddit say you should do. I'll agree on that one for sure.
yeah, we definitely agree on that. All right, so
Yeah, 100%. You got to have the communication between yourselves, not with strangers.
agreed. So the update, to read it real quick, it says, "Hey everyone, I wanted to let everyone know what had transpired last night following this post. I got so many helpful comments and I appreciate them all. Some comments were very nice, out there, and dramatic, even for me. But I still appreciate the time it took to read my post and to reply. I saw some common themes, so I wanted to clarify some things. Firstly, I did reflect back on the time and realize that I did have baby fever, and while he never outright told me he didn't want a baby, I can see now that he wasn't as enthusiastic as I was. So that could be on me for being so focused on what I wanted. Secondly, I was never upset that he didn't want a baby or even the way he went about it. The only thing that hurt my feelings was the withholding of information and not being direct with me. Following the initial hurt of the situation, we did sit down and talk about it. We had grown and I explained my feelings to him. He apologized and understood why I felt hurt. We were going to be fine. I made it clear that in the future he doesn't need to do something just to make me happy. If his heart isn't in it, we both agreed to be more direct with each other. We read some of the comments on this post together. Some made him open his eyes to how I was feeling, and others made us laugh out loud because they were a bit extreme. And yes, we now know that it is not an effective form of birth control. Winky face. So I don't know if you guys have anything further to add based off that new information.
I don't know, Reddit, the sex ed teacher, and the therapist. Way to go.
All good things, bro. All good things. Me personally, I have nothing really much else to say. I think it kind of affirmed the whole thing of my thesis, I suppose, of the fact that he was probably doing that to spare her feelings. But yeah, definitely could have gone better. He could have done it a better way. But either way, that's kind of all I really think about it. I don't know if you guys have anything else, or we can move it on.
Nah, I'm done with. I'm done with this guy.
I'm good to move on.
All right, wonderful. So that's going to be the end of the Reddit posts. I think those are some pretty good Reddit posts and some pretty good conversations that went off of that. I think I kind of want to start with I think it was the second Reddit post that we went through, kind of brought this topic up, and I think I want to touch on it a little more deeply here. Can guys and girls just be friends? So Maddie believes that guys and girls can just be friends. In many circumstances, he also himself, which I'm sure you heard Aubrey in that episode, he has female friends that he's just friends with, and he uses that as evidence for why. So Aubrey, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on this and how they differ from Maddie's in the sense of girls and guys cannot be friends?
So I have a few points of reference for this. So firstly, I would say in an ideal world, we're all partnered off, right? We're all have a spouse, whatever it is, fine, right? A man and a woman being friends. I remember Maddie and Maddie, I do feel bad a little bit on your end because I've heard your side of the argument already a little bit, and you haven't heard mine yet. So you're kind of playing this on your back foot a little bit. So I just to the listeners, give
Gotta
Maddie
play
some
some good
credit
gotta play
because
some good defense, Maddie. Come on.
exactly he's got his work cut out for him because I've already heard a little bit of him and he hasn't heard any of me. So this is what I would say, right? I remember when Maddie said in that podcast, he said, "Well, I'm like an extreme example." Right? Like 99% of people that I know, they would look at the opposite sex in a sexual way, regardless of whether they're friends, whether they're not friends, whatever the situation may be. Now, here's the problem. In order for that friendship to work out, 4 people have to agree that it'll work out. The man, the woman, the woman's boyfriend, the man's girlfriend. All 4 people have to agree that that's a platonic situation, right? And I got to be honest, it goes against a lot of the nature of all of these people, right? It's going to go against the nature of the partners to not be jealous. It's going to go against the nature of the individuals not to, really have an attraction. And assuming any of these people are single, right? Let's suppose that there's not a relationship, and let's suppose both these people are single. It creates problems with potential partners, right? Because there are many men like me, sort of who again, we sort of have a high list of requirements when we are considering potential partners, right? And we don't tolerate that, right? Just straight up, we don't accept that. We don't accept that as an answer of just like, oh, you can't hang out with me. You're hanging out with your friend. Oh, who's your friend? This other guy. We're just not. A lot of men like me are just not going to tolerate that. And so that friendship ends up doing two things. Number one, it hurts the partners of the people that are in that friendship, and it hurts the people in that friendship because at the end of the day, they're losing access to high quality partners, in my opinion. No self respecting guy is going to say, oh, it's okay. We can't meet Saturday. It's okay that you're hanging out with Maddie instead of me. Right. And still think that that's going to be a relationship. And then counterly, a lot of girls are going to have problems with that too. It's like, oh, you're friends with the girl? That's a little bit weird. Why don't you date her? Oh, well, we didn't the right time. Some answer. Right. So that was, I would say, one part of my argument. I don't know if you want to just go point by point and sort of, if you want to address that, and I'll
Yeah, I
say a
think
couple other things.
I think that it'd probably be most productive to kind of go point by point here. So, first point being what Aubrey just said, Maddie. What is your rebuttal to this?
Well, I I can agree. When he said it takes 4 people to say whether or not a guy and a girl can be friends. The girl, the boyfriend, the guy, the girlfriend. I 100% agree. That does matter. Whether or not a guy and a girl are able to have a platonic friendship, it is important because obviously, if let's say my girlfriend's guy friends were, they're like 6'3", they're fit, they're good looking dudes, like a whole package looking type shit. And then there's me over here. I wouldn't want my girl to be, oh no, I'm just hanging out with Keith and Johnny and these dudes. We're at a club. I'd be like, "Huh, why you at a club with these guys and not me?" So I could understand that point of view. I can, but I can also disagree because in the instance of, let's say, for this type of instance, I'll just give my type of situation. I'll give my situation. My friend, I met him through work about 3-4 years ago. We became good friends. I met his now wife. Obviously because they've been together for years, and I met her then, and we grew to be friends. We are all of our friends are very close, and I go out with her and a couple of other friends every other week or every week, to go dancing and to go have fun and do shit, and then we all go together. Which actually next weekend, my friend, his wife, my other friend, and his girl, we're actually all gonna be, and a couple of other people, we're actually gonna be going to Universal. So there's that. Um, so I think it also matters about when it is you meet someone because my friend and his wife have been together for years. I met him and then I met her, right? So let's say in the instance where I meet a girl and we get serious and whatever, and she says, "I don't like you hanging out with these people. I don't think you guys can be friends. The way you act is too friendly, this and that." I'm like, yeah, because we are friends and I've known them they were in my life before you. So it's like it's not like I'm gonna drop my friends for the girl, right? Because at the end of the day, then what does the friendship really matter? Because then you're disrespecting all that, the time, the memories and everything with your friends for the person who is uncomfortable. I understand there might be the uncomfortability or the discomfort, that's the right word, the discomfort. Um, but at the end of the day, as long as it's a normal platonic and there's literal no anything, which that's thankfully my case, then I think that guys and girls can be friends because my guy friends, they do trust me with their girlfriends and their wives because they know I'm the nice guy. They know I'll be protective of the girls when we go out. They know that
Right.
if
Yeah,
they
I can imagine that. I've had situations like that with women as well, right? Where look, I have a partner, a guy friend has a partner, and they know I'm good, right? They know, look, we don't got to worry about what Aubrey's going to do. He's not going to make a pass or do something, you know,
yeah.
ridiculous, right? But my sort of more point is, so even for example, right? I would argue that that dynamic you have with that woman is not a true friendship, right? Because like, look, in that term of female friend, am I friendly with women? Yeah, I work with women, right? I have neighbors who are women, right? I'm friendly with everybody, right? I mean, anybody comes over to me, I'm friendly, right? But here's like sort of the bottom line, right? Would I reach out to my friend's girlfriend directly? Would I message my friend's girlfriend
No.
without using my friend as an intermediary? No. Why? Because that's my friend, right? The friend's girlfriend, she is friend by extension, right? And so if my friend breaks up with his girlfriend, I'm still friends with my friend. I don't care what happened. I don't care what the dynamics are. I'm not in the middle going, who was in the right, who was in the wrong, right? I'm sort of taking the side of, well, that's my friend. I got your back. She got her friends. They got her back, right? Like at the end of the day, I'm going to try and guide you, course correct you to be as best man as possible. But the whole time I have your back, right? And I think that my personal feeling is sort of the male female friendship doesn't work, not just in the sense that it's not a real friendship when it's happening. Even if you found this in isolation, right? So suppose she had no boyfriend, you have no girlfriend, and you're just friends, right? You're just friendly with each other. You met her in the class, she was in your class or something, and so you're sharing notes with her, and you have some type of kinship over your teacher or something, right?
Hmm.
That friendship is going to be preventing you from evolving to the next level of relationship. Right. And so I think this is just maybe the whole argument we're all having is just what is a friend? Because to me, as a friend, it means loyalty, it means respect, it means looking out for that person's happiness, regardless of what that might mean. And it means, not wanting them to see, not wanting to see them in a sexual capacity.
Yeah, I
Right.
think
Because
I
that's
think
it.
it's probably a good a good productive a good point for productivity to define what we mean by the term friend. So I guess we'll start with Aubrey. Aubrey, what do you mean by like friend? Just like a concise definition of that.
I would say a friend is a person that you have loyalty towards, um, that you have respect towards. Um, I'm not going to say that you take a side with no matter what, but that your disposition is to side with no matter what, and also non-sexualized, right? So if my friend comes over my house and does the naked hula hoop, I'm disgusted, right? I'm not saying, oh, maybe I could sneak a peek, or oh, I don't want to view them in a sexual way. It's like, no, put your clothes on and get the hell out of my house. That was gross, right? And so look, you could kind of be friends with your girlfriend, right? You could, in a sense that like, oh, we are like friends because we see each other in a sexual way, respect those boundaries, and we also can talk about things, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but the reality is female friends stifle relationships, right? Boy girl relationships, right? So I don't know. My opinion is it's a hard thing to define, but I would be absolutely disgusted if I saw any of my friends naked,
Do you
right?
think
And so
that do you think that if it was like kind of like a friendship by proxy, so it's like I'm friends with this person simply because they are the girlfriend in Maddie's case, they are the girlfriend of my best friend. Do you think that that's really your friend or is it just like kind of like
no,
your
I don't view that as a friend, right? The same way any by proxy friendship isn't really a friendship, right? If I get along with somebody at work, right? I have an old coworker and he comes in, he tells me a joke every day and I laugh, right? The day I quit that job, the friendship has been terminated, right? Because I have no reason to see this person anymore. I have nothing in common with them anymore, right? And so, yeah, every time I went to work, I was very professional with them. I was very friendly with them. I laughed at all their jokes, even if they weren't funny. But when that when that mitigating factor is terminated, that's where the friendship lies. Now, if you have a friend at work and then both of you lose your jobs and you both still hang out every day, you guys are friends, right? If You have a friend, and again, like you knew a person, right? Here's another great example. You have a sister, and your sister has a boyfriend, and you're friends with the boy. Are you really friends with the boyfriend as a guy? No, you're not friends with him. You're friendly to him because if that guy ever hurt that girl, your sister, he'd be out the door. You wouldn't tolerate it. Or vice versa. If your sister hurt that guy and that guy was out the door, you'd still say, "Look, that's my sister. That's a person I'm friendly towards." Right? And so they're a proxy dynamic. It's me being friendly with them is more of a testament to the friendship with the person that's the intermediary, right?
Yeah,
So
it's like
how well I
a
get along with my brother's girlfriend is a reflection on how close I am with my brother. It has no bearance on his girlfriend, right? The girlfriend could be a revolving piece for all I care, right? That's not the point, right? So my thing is just I don't think me and Maddie probably even disagree on a lot of this. I just think that, well, how do we use the word friend? How do we describe all this?
yeah,
I take the
it's really
word friend very
definitions. It's
seriously.
really definitions and definitionally speaking.
Yeah, and I take that word very seriously because I can honestly count the amount of friends I have on one hand, right? It takes a level of magnitude to be in that circle.
No, yeah, and I think in that sense of the whole, I think by proxy, it's like you're friends with that person so long as you're also, so long as that proxy is still alive, you're friends with that person. But that proxy
Yeah,
is
you're
dead, that
friends by
friendship is dead.
association, right?
Yeah, and then once that association is gone, then you're no longer friends with that person. Maddie, what about you? What is your definition of friends or friendship, I suppose?
Well, my definition of friendship, which as you get older, you really realize what a friend is, right? For me, a friend is a person who, very similarly, how Aubrey said, if for example, like he said about the whole colleague thing, you know, you're colleagues, you're not really friends. Although, you, me, and George, we're buddies. We are actually buddies. We're actual friends. Um, but if you guys left, I'd still talk to you guys. We'd still be hanging out. We'd still be doing the podcast. So I see you guys as friends. We communicate all the time. We do all that. How I see a friend is someone who, regardless of how frequently you see each other, like, or let's say you see each other once a week, once a month, or maybe even longer, that you still think about the person, you care about the person, you check in every once in a while, you care about their well-being and vice versa, and you enjoy their company, they uplift you, they what's the word I'm looking for, they like express the same, damn, they
Yeah,
express
they
the
like
same
support. They support
vibe.
you. They're on your side, type shit.
Yeah, they're on your side. They have the same intentions. They're the same good vibes, the same good feelings, no negativity, all positivity, and they uplift you and you guys work together. Like, you don't just, oh, we like uh fucking ice cream and that's the only thing you have in common. No. It's about the mutual respect and admiration you have for each other and for the comfortability with hanging out, with telling the other person something you might not talk to your parents about, your spouse about, certain people about. That's how you know they're true friends. Someone who you can let your guard down with, and you know they won't judge you or throw it in your face, and that no matter what, they'll always be there, regardless of a fight, a fallout, or anything of that nature.
All right, so I think that now a good question to ask would be based off of, because I don't think you guys disagree on the definition to a certain degree. Or do you guys disagree on, you guys find like any sort of disagreement on your definitions?
I just view friend, I think, with a higher magnitude. I think that the way Maddie described it, right? I could know a kid from my, oh, he was in my, 11th grade geometry class, and we could chill and talk about the vibes and reminisce and share some things you wouldn't share with other people, right? We could have some moments mutually. I just wouldn't describe that person as a friend because they sat 3 rows behind me in geometry class in high school, right? I just think friendship bar is very, very high. And I've kind of learned over my adult life, I would say, is that high bar is for very, very good reason. It really prevents a lot of damage from coming in. I mean, I guess that's the full extent I could say of it. It's just, if my friend calls me up on the phone and says, "Hey, listen, you can't really ask a ton of questions, but I promise you this is me on the other end of the phone. I need you to wire me $10,000." And I can't explain why. My friend, I would do that for, right? I'm not doing that for the guy 3 rows behind me in geometry class when I was 17, right, or 16. Right? I'm not doing that. And I also I cannot say that there is a woman in my life that I would do that for that's not my partner, right? I think, sidebar, right? I think I have more in common with a male chimpanzee than I do with a female human, right? I think that things that I can be friends over, right? My goals, my ambitions, what I want, they aren't destructive to the other men around me, right? We all want the same things. We want to be muscular. We want to be financially sound. We want to have a proper mindset, and we want women, right? I mean, that's part of it too, right? Um, and I just find that you have a female friendship. One of you guys has feelings. Maybe they don't. One of them gets a partner. The partner's upset at you. You say, "Well, I was here first." Then the partner feels bad. But then you say, "Oh, I think you should be more respectful to your partner than of me because I'm a friend and I'm going to get my own girlfriend." And then they're more respectful of you. And then your girlfriend don't like them. And this is nonsense, right? Men are supposed to stick together and be friends, right? Women are friends, right? I'll never sit there and go, "Hey, I'm really jealous." Over who? Over your friend, whatever her name is, right? That's ridiculous. So I don't know. To me, I just think we're not that much different than all of the other animals on planet Earth, right? Like, what do I want to do? I want to be fit. I want to be happy. I want to be free, right? I want to be with women. I want to be in great shape. These are all the same things that if a chimpanzee could talk, would say a male chimpanzee would say the same things. So, and a lot of women wouldn't, right? A lot of women wouldn't say those things.
Would you allow, like, I suppose in your relationship, would you tolerate your partner having male friends?
In Maddie's definition of word, yes. In my definition of word, no. Right. So yes, my partner can have colleagues. My partner has a job, and there are men that work at that job. They're allowed to have a communication with those men. I'm not going to sit here and go, put tape over your mouth whenever you leave the house and don't succeed professionally because I need to be protective, right? But in my definition of word of friend, absolutely not. It doesn't exist, right? It's like, oh, you think this guy is great in every way, but you don't want to fuck them. Okay, explain that to me. So they're not
Yeah,
sexually
that's actually a
attractive,
really good way to
right?
put it.
So,
Yeah.
and
You
and
know
here's
what?
the
If I
side.
may say something, I don't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt. I've mentioned this many episodes. I think that most of my views, especially on this type of topic, about men and women being friends or platonic friends or anything in general, I think a lot of it is mostly biased from my personal experience since I haven't been in a relationship. So I don't have those boundaries set up. I don't have that knowledge. I don't have that type of understanding of my girl can't have guy friends because at the end of the day, guys just want to fuck, and she doesn't want me to have girlfriends because she thinks I want to fuck her. They want to fuck me. So I think that also plays a big part in our different views
do you mind if I
in
ask
the
how old you
aspect.
are? Is
Uh,
that too personal if I ask your age?
no, no, not at all. I'm 24.
24. So you're right there, right? You're right there. I think I think your opinion on this is going to change in 2 years. That's my opinion, right? Because I think, and this is the realization I came to because I had a female friend. I thought it was a friend at one point in time, right? And what I have found is that two things are bad about a female friendship. Not in the dynamic and blah blah. Like we all talk about the social situation. Mentally speaking, two things are bad. I I personally simultaneously do not want to surround myself with women who don't respect me in a sexual way. I don't want to surround myself with women who do respect me in a sexual way, right? And that's the problem. Right? If a girl isn't looking at me sexually and I'm friends with them, the thought's going to arise. Well, what the hell is wrong with me? And if they do look at me that way, well, that's mistreating to my actual partner, right? And so I don't think it's good for the male psychology to be around women who don't prop you up in a sense of, yes, you're hot. You're really hot. I'd be with you. I'd want to be with you. That dynamic is not good for your ego, right? And I think that if you are a high respecting man, you see a girl who looks at you like that, and you would think, oh, their brain is just wired wrong. They just don't know what's important. That's how I view women who aren't really attracted to me. I go, it's look, I don't mind it, but something wrong with you. There's not something wrong with me, right? And I think that that's why there's no friendship, right? Because either it is a good thing, either it is a sexual thing, or it's not, and either way, it's not good for the male involved.
Matt, do you have
Okay.
any points to make against that, or
No, the thing is, I genuinely I understand him 100%. Um, it's I bro, like listening to him is like an eye opener. Like when he said the whole thing about the guys, I can't quote it, so forgive me. So I don't want it to make it seem like I wasn't actually paying attention, Aubrey. But
No,
when you said about you're only friends, like saying that my girlfriends are only quote unquote using the word loosely friends due to me being friends with the guys first. So they're not truly friends. They're just there by association. So they're technically a friend. And it had me thinking, like, damn, like I'm actually thinking about it. It's like I know my guys trust me. If they were to ever step out for a minute to go get gas or go get food, that they trust me to be with their girl. But then it had me thinking, would they trust me if they broke up with their girl and I was there alone in the house with them? So it's really having me
oh,
think about the whole
can I?
friendship.
would you still be friends with them though if your homeboy broke up with his girl or like divorced her or whatever? Would you still be friends with that girl, with his ex, or would you break it off as well?
No, this I personally I don't know what to tell you because I haven't really, thankfully, knock on wood, haven't been in that type of situation where my friends have broken up with each other, um, and have had to choose sides. But how my friends are for the last few years, we're literally together every weekend. We go on trips, we go to dinners, we all have hobbies that we do together. We literally like we're like family. Like, and I don't and I'm not saying like, oh, these guys are like my brother. No, these guys are my literal ride or dies. These girls are my ride or dies. So it's hard for me to say that I would choose sides, but it's also extremely hard to say that I wouldn't. Because at the end of the day, as much as I love my homeboy, I love my homegirl, right? So I personally, and again, knock on wood, I hope that it would never come to that, but I don't think I would be able to choose sides. That I think it would be whoever it is that I happen to see more, I guess I would have more communication with, if that makes sense.
If the thing is this, right? Even if they didn't make you choose, right? So let's say, the guy says, "Listen, we broke up. You could still be friends with her if you want, and I'm still gonna be friends with her, whatever, whatever, right?" If there was any perception of mistreatment between the two of them, or just sidebar, even if there wasn't, the moment you pick one of those people to be friends with, the other one is out. Just period is out, right? Just because of the nature of just like, yeah, I'm not gonna hang out with this person. We're not gonna hang out in a group, right? And then furthermore, is something interesting, right? When I was in high school, I definitely got mistreated by the person I was with, right? And we broke up. It was a terrible, terrible breakup. It was really went as awful as you could possibly imagine. Um, I had people come over to me and say, "Oh, how are things going?" or whatever, and I made it clear with my friends very early on. I said, "You know what occurred based on what I've told you. You know that I don't lie to you about these things. If you're friends with both of us at the end of this, you were never friends with me. Not that you aren't friends with me, that we were never friends if you think that you can continue to be friends with this person who mistreated me in this way. Means you never really gave a fuck about me, right? And I'll go further than that. People who I thought were friends, right, who were friendly of me, friendly of her, in the relationship weakness moment, scandalous things, right? It's very reasonable to expect scandalous things. And I'm sure you wouldn't do that, Maddie, right? I'm sure that wouldn't be on your end. But hey, I'm I'm mad at my girlfriend. She's mad at me. My friend is on the side. My girlfriend sees a moment of weakness in one of my friends. What happens if she's trying to get back at me? Again,
Exactly.
like to me, these things are really deeply problematic, and relationship trust can be gone like in a snap. It could just break. It's just like, oh, now I don't trust you at all about anything,
Yeah,
right?
so
Like
then
you're
it
a demon,
ruins that
right?
perfect relationship.
Yeah, and that's the moment where you need your friends, right? So like my brother is a perfect example, right? Like my brother, I know no matter what happens, I can tell him, yo, brother, I'm not gonna say his name. I went and I did something horrible. I did something absolutely terrible. I think I killed somebody. Be like, all right, dude, listen, we can't speak about this over the phone. Come see me. We're gonna figure this out. That's the level of loyalty you should have with your friends. And what I encourage you to do is have as high of a loyalty with your friends as humanly possible. And at the same time, just don't have relationships with women who don't respect you in a sexual way. You deserve to be seen in a sexual light no matter what women are around you. I just think that that's so crucial for the male psychology. I think it's important that even your friends look at you and go, that guy is a threat. Not in the sense that I think he's gonna steal my girl, in the sense that, man, he's a boss. That guy, forget it. He is a sexual being. He is magnanimous, right? Again, I don't want my girlfriend hanging around any magnanimous guys, right? I don't want any of that. So, I don't like my potatoes touching my steak or my peas touching my potatoes. I keep things separate, and that's an insurance policy that everything acts right. Another quick example, and I don't mean to ramble on. Cut me off. I'm going too long, but I my brother, right? I used to work with him in a nightclub. Here's a perfect example. And he's on one side of the nightclub. I'm on the other side of the nightclub. And one day there's a massive fight breaks out. Right? It's Halloween. Everybody's drinking, and there's a massive fight in the club. It is spilling all over the floor. It is an absolute disaster. And I'm behind the bar with his girlfriend. And I can look across the room, see my brother, and I'm trying to gauge whether or not he's safe or not. And because he looks like he's in the thick of it, like fists are swinging, fists are swinging. It's getting crazy. And he directs me, stay back, and he points to his girlfriend. I knew at that moment in time, that's my assignment. That's it. That's my assignment, right? And yeah, to that day, I was her best friend in the whole world, right? Because I was throwing fists, just making sure none of it spilled onto her, right? But if that relationship breaks up, I never knew her. You know what I mean? And it's nothing personal, right? It's she knows it because at the end of the day, it's not about I could be incredibly loyal, I could be incredibly nice, I could do incredibly great. I would die for there are women I would die for. But at the end of the day, I'm not really dying for them. I'm dying for the men involved who are my friends because I care about their happiness and I care about my role in that ecosystem. And so I would say, like, look, it's very possible we agree on everything and we just don't define the word friend the same way. Many people don't define that word the same way. It's kind of hard to define. Um, maybe that's best way to draw the line, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I can agree that everyone, especially on their own personal
Let's get
journeys
final
and
thoughts on this.
situation. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, continue. I was just saying, let's just get
Oh,
the final thoughts on this, and then we can move on.
yeah. Um, I forgot what I was gonna say.
I'm so sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to make you forget.
Nah, no worries. I forgot anyway. So let's if need, we can move on.
Did you happen to hear what he was saying, Aubrey, or not really?
Yeah, he just said let's move on.
All right, bet. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Um, Another one of the contentions that you had with I guess this one would be my position, is you said, or I suppose one of the disagreements you had was that you believe that 9 bodies for a man is not degenerate. I was just wondering what exactly prompted that disagreement and what your thoughts were on that.
So I take it that you think it is degenerate.
Did you hear that on the show and that's why you disagreed with it, or?
Yeah, I think the other co-host you had on, I'm blanking on his name right now. You were like, "Oh, he's a degenerate. He's had 9 bodies," right? And I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
George,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
George.
That's what I thought. Yeah, it was George. Yeah. So I believe that is degenerate. I think that's degenerate behavior, and I think to a certain degree, I think this is another one of those definitional things where we have to define what degeneracy means to the both of us, which we probably would differ on a little bit. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that made you disagree?
So I'll start with the definition of degenerate, right? So let me just read to you what the quickly Google definition is, right? Having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of decline, lacking some property, order, or distinctness of structure previously or usually present, an immoral or corrupt person, decline or deteriorate physically, mentally, or morally. I would say that the probably the one that we're discussing is having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities, specifically the moral qualities. That's probably what you think it is. It's immoral to have many partners. Would you be in agreement with that?
Yeah, I would say that the whole, I suppose my position on the degeneracy part would be lack of morals. I think it's, to a certain degree, it's also disgusting. But I think morals would probably be the thing I would kind of point to represent that.
So let me bring up a case here, right? For every 10 ancestors that you have, 9 of them are women. I don't know if you ever heard that before. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay. So for the listener, why you say why is that the case? It's because select men are breeding by and large the total amount of time, right? So it's some huge proportion never have kids, and the top 10% of men, sort of again have their pick of the litter, do whatever they want, raise multiple offspring through different wives, and et cetera, et cetera, right? I would never look at Genghis Khan and go, that right there was a guy who was degenerate, right? I mean, yeah, maybe he lacked moral quality in some other ways, right? I mean, he did a lot of conquering, right? But he was by and large a conqueror, right? The fact that he was able to have many partners in a strictly biological sense was indicative of his health and virility, right? I don't think it was indicative of his lack of morals. And I would even go further to say, if you look in the animal kingdom, if you look across all animals, right? Take lions, for example, and this is true with many mammals, not just lions, right? What do lions do? What do male lions do? Well, they sleep with all the female lions, right? They produce offspring. And the way they get to that point is by killing off the other apex lion, right? They kill that off, they kill its offspring, and therefore the strongest lion sort of survives. You might think that this whole process is degenerate. You might have your opinions about what that means morally. But in my regard, the biological record and future is sort of just in total disagreement with you, right? The prize for being non degenerate is selection, right? And the punishment for being degenerate is lack of selection, right? So if you're a person that it's not of good moral quality, right? You don't take care of yourself physically, you don't take care of yourself mentally, you don't take care of yourself financially. And yes, you don't have offspring, you don't have partners, right? And that's unfortunately that's kind of the way that is. And look, I could tell you as a sidebar, right? There are tons and tons of virgins under 30 years old. There are more than you'd expect there to be. I think something like 30 or 40%, some huge number, right? And yet there are many men, many, many sexual partners. I'm talking not even in the tens, I'm talking in the hundreds and thousands. That exists it's not that rare, right? And for me to look at that, I go, how many of those virgins would opt to be having their number look closer to 1,000 versus how many of those people in those thousands would opt to be virgins? And I'll tell you right now, it has none of this, how many bodies you have, for men, has anything to do with moral standing. And it has everything to do with if you are in a place to succeed, if you are at the top of your craft, if you are sort of on the, again, having taken care of your financial, physical, and mental health, you will have many partners. And that to me is you can opt to not select that. You could say, well, I want one person. We want this to be sacred. We want this, and that's fine. But the world is just flooded with those other types of men, and by and large, I would not describe any of those men as degenerate. They are completely healthy. They're completely normal. I think it's if we talk about dishonesty in a relationship, I think that one of the main dishonesties in relationships is that, oh, I only have eyes for you. You're the only person I would ever look at that way. It's not true, right? That's not how men are wired. That's not how we're designed. Um, I think to look down upon men who have sexual capabilities is just completely backwards.
I think to a certain degree, we should look down. We should look down upon bad behavior. So I think the way we would categorize this, I think, would be a little bit different. You mentioned the whole lion thing, but I would probably rebut with saying lions also kill each other and cannibalize each other. So I don't think we would. I think a lot of the standards that we would hold lions to would not really be held in a civilized society that we hold ourselves as human beings. We have conscious and we have a moral standard. Although some of our moral standards are different, I believe a lot of the times what we believe to be our moral standard is very subjective. But there is such thing as objective morals. In my perspective, objective morality is the truth. It is a truth, rather. And so when we get to the whole idea of it, we are, we have consciousness, we are civilized, and so when we get to a point where we say it's okay for people to do these degenerate things because we see these things in nature, and naturally this would perpetuate the best circumstances or whatever the case may be, to a certain degree. You could be right, like, biologically speaking, but not all biological things are moral. So, kind of going to your own relationship, would you be okay with your relationship being polyamorous?
Oh, because that's not the contract of my own personal relationship, right?
Yeah, but why
Which,
wouldn't it be
and
though? That's the question.
well, first of all, if it ever would be, it would be one-sided because I think the standards for women are totally the opposite, right? So that's the first part is I don't think what's necessarily is true for men is true for women, right? I think the markers for women are totally, totally different, and I could discuss that too. Um, if it was going to be that dynamic, it would be one-sided, and then I would say secondarily, my opinion is sort of this: if you want to have I would say a wide biological record, right? So you want to have you and your type exist in 20 different women, for example. You want to have 20 different kids with 20 different women. You want to do that, right? If you can afford all that, if you can do the moral thing and pay for all that offspring and you can take care of everybody and you can handle things and all of those women agree to that, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything immoral about that. I think that do you think Elon Musk having a few different families and choosing to do that is immoral, knowing that every kid that he has is going to be a multimillionaire? If he is the least generous father ever to exist, as maybe going to be the world's first trillionaire, right? You know all of his kids are going to be set up. You know that you rather have a tenth of an Elon Musk as a dad than many of the dads that exist, right? So why should I view what he does as wrong? Now, that's a completely different set of circumstances than if you look at the female counterpart. And I can go into that if you'd like. But I think those ways are obvious on the female counterpart.
I mean, I think the idea would be, even in the Elon Musk example, he can afford to have that many kids, but regardless, there would be some sort of moral negativity attributed to it. Considering, I mean, you yourself said earlier on in the show that the best thing in society would be for everybody to have somebody, right? So like everybody would be paired up with at least one, or one person would be paired up with one person, and everybody would have their own
Not
pair.
necessarily. I think that I don't think that that's the best thing for society. I think that when I brought it up, it's in the case of theoretically, if you and your have a friend, right? Ideally, both of you get a partner at some point in time, right? That you're not permanently single. But no, I don't think it's necessarily the case that everyone should get a partner, right? And that we should all just pair off and we'll all be great. Because I think that if you're looking at this from an intellectual level, on a biological level, there are just better and worse genetics. Do we think that two people with let's say we have two people who have terminal illnesses. Do we think they should pair off and make kids? Do we think that that's good? Of course not.
Well, I mean,
Do
now
we
you're
think two
kind of
people?
starting to get into the whole eugenics thing, which is a
It's
whole.
not eugenics. It's not eugenics. Eugenics is the opposite, right? Eugenics is when you intervene with the natural order. What I'm just saying is let what happened happen, right? If some men will die virgins. Is that a horrible thing? It's horrible for the virgins, right? It's not a tragedy for everybody else, right? For some reason, the women decided that those are not the genetics that they want. So I'm not going to try and bully a woman into saying no. You should be in love with this guy who you're totally unattracted to, instead of being in love with a guy who you totally are attracted to. But you know what? So is every other woman.
I mean, yeah,
I
but
don't
then we
know.
also kind of we also kind of perpetuate, right? So the idea is, do you believe that in society it would be better or worse? Or I suppose, I guess the better way to ask the question: do you think in society it would be better for there to be more of a nuclear families, a push in society for more nuclear families? Or do you think that the current state we're in right now, where we're kind of pushing down the nuclear family, trying to you know put women in the workforce, and these type of things, and lack of kids, having kids, and hookup culture and things of this nature, you think that that's better for society?
I think that the nuclear family is sort of it's in trouble, right? I think we could agree on that, right? Let's not say whether it's good or bad, but to start, it's definitely in jeopardy, right? And I'll tell you why, right? The nuclear family being, and let me make sure I'm getting this definition right. Man works, woman stays home, raises kids. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, we could go with that. Yeah.
Okay. So do we agree that successful families will have more children and their children will have more children. That both their genetics will span both throughout time, going further down a family tree, and also wider as having a wider family tree.
When you say successful, you mean monetarily or financially?
Well, I personally mean biologically because I think that as far as the biological record is concerned, it doesn't. Who cares if you had all this money if you didn't have kids? What you are is not surviving,
Yeah,
right?
you're a
So you
genetic
take
dead
one
end at
long,
that point. Yeah. So
right?
when you say successful, you just mean that they were able to have children.
Yeah, I mean, look, right. I would say that if you were to look at the most successful genetic person throughout history, I think Genghis Khan would be a perfect example. I think it's something like 6% of all Asians have some Genghis Khan DNA, right? And there's tons and tons of Asians, right? It's one of the largest. It's the largest nationality, really, right? Or ethnicity. So he's very successful in a biological sense, right? Was he successful in a moral sense, or was he degenerate? Was he, that's another conversation. The biological record just simply doesn't care, right?
I mean,
And so how
I would agree. Yeah, the biological record doesn't care, and I think biologically speaking, he was successful. But the conversation is, it does have to do with morals, where we say, yeah, having nine bodies is degenerate for a man versus you who doesn't believe so. And so when we're talking about
so I
the biological nature of it, I suppose I would agree that yeah, biologically it would be more successful for a man to have more sexual partners, considering that that's kind of how we're hardwired. But the question is it moral? Is it something that
well,
would lead to degeneracy?
I think this is sort of the crux of the issue, though, right? Is do you think that someone acting as they naturally are, right? They're doing what they are wired to do, right? You think that that's something that we should try to separate from or try to move closer towards? And I can say honestly, I think that if you asked me 20 years ago what the answer to that question was, I would say we should separate from what we're naturally tending to do. There's all these things we naturally tend to do that are horrible. We kill and we're violent and this and that. But I look around at men nowadays and I think they naturally want to do the right things. What they're wired to do is mostly what they should be doing, right? And there are some men that aren't that way, right? There's some men that are just evil men. But you know what? Good men are wired to root out evil men also, right? So I think in a general sense, right, we have a little bit of a problematic situation in the relationship department, right? Because I do think it is degenerate for a woman to be sleeping around with many, many men. But men don't have this standard, right? And so you have a problem of right now in society, if we're looking to how do we develop the nuclear family and make it stronger? And the idea is keep women at home and having them raise kids and have men go to work. I'll tell you right now, there is not going to be a couple that is able to compete with me and my partner if we both go to work. There's not going to be, you're not going to be able to compete because to start, I would say 90% of men aren't competing with me, right? And that's just sort of statistically speaking. And then if you add on the fact that I have another person going to work, you have lost. Me and mine will crush you and yours. It's it's nothing personal. I don't mean to do that. It's not like it's my goal to crush anybody.
Yeah,
It's just
I can understand that, but in what sense though? In the sense of finances, in the sense of like what are we
in
speaking on
every
here?
my kids will be healthier. I would say in every sense. My kids will be healthier, my kids will be sharper, and my kids will be better off financially.
Yeah, but this is assuming that you would have kids, and then the assumption that you would have kids, that is also assuming that the kids would be raised to also want kids, which goes to show, statistically speaking, the kids who are raised by two parents who work, usually those children do not grow up to want children in the future, and usually don't grow up to have children in the future as well. So then at that point, the genetics would be a dead end at that point either way. I think,
Well, I mean, it depends on how those people raise them, right? I mean, I am not under the I think that there are correlations do not equal causations, right? Look, here's like an honest truth, right? If you take a man who works and a woman who works, and between them you have 80 hours worth of work a week, there's going to be some fighting, like 100%. These people are not going to get along on every single issue, right? And you take that fighting and you raise kids, and those kids go, I definitely don't want to have kids and be fighting with my wife. I don't want to live that same type of life. And my argument is okay, then the answer is there should not be fighting in front of kids.
I mean,
You
I
should
think it
be
goes
happy with
beyond
what you
that,
do
though.
for
I
work.
think it goes beyond that because at the end of the day, when you have kids, the reason why the nuclear family works so well and has been working so well for hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years, is simply due to the fact that the mother is at home raising the kids and not subsidizing the raising of those children to other avenues. So it's the morals of that nuclear family will be placed upon those kids, which will then perpetuate the
Okay,
desire
I mean
for those
that's
kids to have children in the future as well. When if the alternative would be the mother would be working, there's not really that aspect of family values, because the family values are being used for whatever job that those parents have at that point in time. Whether they're fighting or not, that's besides the point, because fighting is going to happen in every relationship in front of kids, although it's best to limit those things.
right.
But it's going to happen majority of the relationships. There's going to be some sort of disagreement, maybe a little bit of arguing or whatever the kids are going to see. But I think having the parent, the mother at home, is what's really going to change the morals of that
So
kid versus being raised by whatever else they're being raised by.
just a quick question, you personally, why haven't you had a kid?
Why haven't I had a kid? I'm not married to my fiance yet, so I suppose that's my first reason. But if I
Okay,
were to get married
but
today, the
yeah.
reason why I probably wouldn't have a child would be because of financial reasons. I don't have the financial
Okay, and
stability to have children at the moment.
and that's exactly my point, right? I would say if for every man that I know that has the desire to have kids at some point in their life, it boils down into two questions, right? If I say why haven't you had kids, it's one of two answers. It's one, there isn't a partner to do that with, or two, I don't have the money, right? And I am of the firm belief that if I work hard and my partner works hard, that my kids will have the money, right? We will set them up, right? And I'm on the second belief that there are other things that I can do to impact children that make them hyper desirable to opposite sex, right? So there's a set of rules for girls, a set of rules for boys. Let's focus on boys for now. If I am pushing my kid to be athletic, I'm pushing them to be financially responsible. I'm teaching them about finances from a very young age. And on top of that, I am monitoring their mental health and making sure that mentally they are sound. If they come into the situation at 19 or 20, hey, I have everything I need to start a family, they'll do that. I haven't had. Why haven't I had kids? And I'm my age because it literally took this long to build the resources. It's literally only recently, I would say, the last 3-ish years that I've gotten to the point where now I could reasonably afford it and not be in a crisis, right?
I understand what you're
And
saying. I understand what you're saying, and just to kind of interject here real quick,
yeah,
the whole idea of it's becoming harder and harder to afford having children, especially for the young generation today. Um, it kind of goes back to the whole idea that the nuclear family was dismantled. So when we started to dismantle the nuclear family, we started putting women into the workforce and whatnot. It started to actually make things harder financially for people who actually did want to have children and did want to do the whole nuclear family aspect of life. So it's like, we have a whole new, I suppose, group of people who are going to be paying taxes now. And just that comes along with things being more expensive and things of this nature. The dollar is going to inflate and whatnot. Um, the simple fact of putting women into work and the feminist movement and all these different things, dividing the nuclear family and dismantling it to a more equality based society, is what made it more difficult for things like that. Like when you hear, because you said it yourself, you hear a lot of the time people say, oh, it's because of financial reasons I haven't had a kid yet.
mhm.
It's because of this whole feminist movement. And so if we would have stayed,
I absolutely agree with this. By the way, everything you said just now, I'm 100% agreement with.
yeah, and if we would have stayed in that whole, with the traditions of things that actually worked, which was the nuclear family, which was women staying in the home and the man going to work, back in that time, you could afford to have five children in your home, and maybe even more than that on a regular based income as a construction worker or something, and you were able to do that, and that was possible. Obviously, living a little more frugal, possibly, but at the end of the day, it was still possible. But nowadays, it's virtually impossible to be able to do that today with a basic income. And I think that is very attributed to the feminist movement and the disillusion of what the nuclear family was, which goes to my further point of degeneracy and having a high body count in that sense, is letting yourself be controlled by your passions, or I suppose letting yourself be run by your passions rather than focusing on the true goal, which is to have a wife, a family, and raise your kids to have more kids and have those sort of nuclear family morals and whatnot, rather than having sex with a lot of women. Although we are biologically wired to do that, that doesn't necessarily mean that should be our moral desire uh, as well. There's a lot of things we're biologically hardwired to do. I mean, listen, there's a lot of people who are biologically hardwired. I think males would definitely be this type of thing where we are biologically hardwired to fight other men to the death, and we've seen this in history. But I think that in a civilized society, we probably would move away from those things. I think certain things we are good to move away from, that we are, generally hardwired towards, and then certain things are not. I think the protection of our family and our resources and whatnot are something that we're hardwired towards, that we should continue to foster a good relationship with. But then other things are not. So I think those two things could be true at the same time. But I don't think just simply because of the fact that it's hardwired means that we should embrace it. I would reject that.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I do believe that it's, yeah, sure, it may be like a naturalistic fallacy to say because we're hardwired, it must be good. It's just sort of my point of, if this is the trait of something that is coming out extremely healthy, why should we as a society go ahead and say, let's punish their extreme healthiness in their regards to where they stand, right? So, and I'll say this as a sidebar, right? I can tell you without a reasonable doubt at all that if we lined up every virgin in the world and said, "Hey, you're in your high school class, you're 17 years old," and three girls walked up to you and said, "Listen, we all want you right now." You tell me how many 17-year-old boys are going to turn that down? None. And so we should say, "Oh, the 17-year-old boy who got offered it, well, he's a worse man because he didn't turn it down," in a world where nobody would have turned it down.
I mean, I
And
understand your point there, but I would say that it's not. It's more so not the simple fact of would he, rather should he, right? So should he control those urges? Should he control those passions and say, I'd rather not do that and violate myself in that way? I'd rather go down the road where I find a person who is going to provide me with that family, that nuclear family route, rather than saying,
yeah,
okay,
but there's far too. You know what it is though? There's far, like, here's a good metaphor. Everybody who can't fight is calling for peace, and the reality is that we should not punish fighters because they can win, right? We should respect them because, hey, a lot of those weak people would love to be fighters, and just the fact that they can't doesn't make the fighters bad people for winning fights. And I think that even furthermore, I honestly think that it's like, maybe for women there are a lot of negative consequences of sleeping around. Listen, I'm not going to reveal my body count or anything like that, but I've been around the block, and I don't feel as though there's been any negative consequence at all.
I think you'd probably think that about yourself, which I mean, I think is completely fine and I think it's natural. But I would say that, like I said, even with the 17-year-old example, would they do it? Probably, but should they is a completely different question, right? So I mean, I completely agree with you that they probably would do it. Most men probably would. I think if you took almost any men, and just picked them out of the litter and just said, okay, we're gonna give you the most attractive woman you can think of, and we're gonna have you have sex with her, they'll probably agree to that. They probably would. But the question is, should they, right? So it's about a perpetuation of good societal norms that would push a better society where we would see less degeneracy, we would see less things like abortion, which is a very horrible thing, or less things like pornography and OnlyFans and things of this nature. We would see less of these things, a better society. I think we should push for those things. And I think that allowing, or I suppose having not having a stigma towards things like high body count, whether that be for women or men, would be kind of moving away from those type of things that would push a better society. And I think furthermore, I think when it comes to the whole, that he would choose that or whatever the case may be, I think having a control of your passions and having an ability to say, you know what, I won't do that in sacrifice for better moral outcomes, even if I suppose the consequence would be that I would be a virgin for the rest of my life. However you may see that, I think that that's actually very virtuous, and I think that that's something that should be respected for that man, rather than the man who is able to have sex with many women. I think the man who is able to control those urges should be respected more so.
I think both should be respected, right? And I've always contended that really there are two routes in life to go, right? There's the route of, I'm going to be with a person and they're going to be with me, and we just met out of high school, and we've only seen each other and all of that loveliness, right? There's that route. And there's the other route of, as a man, you have to be, I guess, in control of your domain. You have to be experienced. These are things that are rewarded in the marketplace, right? Whereas, like, I'll tell you right now, if a girl knows my body count, they're not like, oh, that's gross, right? Whereas
No, I
I
agree.
can
I
look at a
agree.
girl and say
It's
that,
definitely
right? And
different in society the way we view body count between men and women for sure.
right, and even furthermore, right? Like I've had experiences that, you know, again, I think a lot of the suffering of men, and I think we agree on 90% of this. I will say that, but I think that we've put men in a position in so many ways that they are not naturally designed to be happy in those ways, right? I don't look around and go, why are all the men depressed? I go, how can any men be happy given that I know their situation? Given that, hey, the person they're with has had more sexual partners than they have, given that they make as much or less money than their partner, given that their job requires them to sit at a desk all day and not be mobile and active and physically fit. And that if they are having one of those jobs that requires them to be active and physically fit, that they're getting paid shit to do it and they're taking a ton of social credit damage in order to take those jobs. So I look around and I go, I don't ask myself why men are depressed. Of course, men are depressed. They're trapped at a desk, not having any sort of sexuality, not having any sort of, looking at their partners as more experienced than them. It's a disaster what's happening to men,
Yeah,
in my
and
opinion.
I mean, I would
Right?
ask you, would you agree to a certain degree that a lot of the things you just mentioned as, reasons you would provide for why men are depressed today, are a direct consequence of feminism and the equality movement?
Absolutely, but I think that while that may be the case, the outcome doesn't mean the reversal of the case. So let me put it to this way, right? So I'm with somebody, we both work. We go to buy property. Bank will give us a huge loan. The bank will appreciate a much greater down payment, right? They'll see how much money we make. We can afford a bigger bill. And people who are working couples are starting to take over all of the real estate. And if you're left as an individual man going, I want to buy a house to provide for my family, you will not win that battle because you cannot compete with two salaries. It's not possible, right? And so you're looking at the real estate market going, damn, these prices are just going up. I'm getting fucking killed because my salary isn't going up with that. It's because you're competing against two people. So what's the recourse for that? You say, I need to have a partner that works too. Well, if you do that, odds are they might make more money than you, right? It's the other side, all right? Women are now more college educated, right? So you have to say, not only do I need a partner who works, but I need to make more money than they do. You have to come at this like, again, and I think it's sort of like you're walking down a path and you see a mountain. The answer is either I don't climb the mountain or I climb over the mountain or I go around the mountain. The answer is not, there wasn't a mountain here before. How do we crush this mountain down into dust? You have to get through to this somehow, right? And that's the world, that's unfortunately the world we live in, is that you cannot compete with two salaries as an individual man unless you are hyper successful.
I agree,
And
because this is the society that we've built as the feminist movement has grown and whatnot. But I think ultimately, regardless of the mountain being there or not being there, people are going to have to climb that mountain or go around the mountain or not do it at all. But I think to a certain degree, when we look at the society we have built and the way we perpetuated everything and the going away from the nuclear family has led us to a society where we are not even at replacement rate when it comes to
they've castrated the society,
yeah,
100%.
we are not at replacement rate anymore. So we're not even replacing the people that we're making anymore. And so at that point, eventually there wouldn't even be people to go above that mountain or go around the mountain or just not do the mountain at all. There won't be
Right.
people at all. So in this society that we're building right now, it's heading towards a disaster. And so what
I
I'm saying,
100% agree, but the
yeah,
only
and
advice
so
I can give is to like you or Maddie or friends of mine. I can't change society. I can only change the men
you
around me.
adapt to it, right? You adapt to it.
Right.
And I understand that point, but what I'm saying is when it comes to because this is where it all stemmed from, when it comes to the moral aspect of things, I think the perpetuation of a good society is the perpetuation of nuclear families that will then increase the lifespan of what we consider the human race. And so when we're looking at which thing would lead to that, the current society that we have right now is not leading to that at all. The society we had previously definitely was leading to that more so. And yeah, I think that at that point, I don't see in a sense of man having multiple bodies and things of this nature, and having multiple children like Elon Musk has. Regardless, these behaviors are perpetuating this new society that we live in right now, where it's leading towards disaster. So I suppose that's my perspective. And I think
Yeah, I mean, look,
Y-
I agree with you by and large. I pretty much don't have a disagreement with any of those things you're saying. It's just sort of I just go, we can't go into reverse mode, right? We can't
Yeah,
go back to a time where women aren't promiscuous. We can't go back to a time where you're meeting a girl and they're 18 years old and their family is setting them up with your family and you knew them
but
from
we
the.
can still order society to go towards these things now. Like we can still like,
You can't because we have so many. So at this moment in time, we need women in the workforce, right? It's not even like we could say, oh, we could send all the women home and everything else. We will lose on pretty much every exchange on a national, international stage, right? Against pretty much every other developed nation if we don't have our women work. Women contribute a ton to society in the workforce, right? Arguably even more than men do in a lot of ways, at least in the middle parts, maybe not in the upper echelons, but in the middle of society, yeah, middle America is almost all women, right? And that's where we say, like, okay, we have to compete with China, we have to compete with Russia, we have to compete with even our allies, Germany, France, Canada, right? We have to compete. We need our women to compete. There's no going back to saying, okay, now I'll get my woman to stay home. If you say I'm going to keep my woman at home and she's going to have to learn how to live on the average male salary, 50 something, 60 something $1,000 a year, you're going to get cooked. And I say that in a way of just like, I don't want any man that I am around to be cooked. So my answer to all men that are around me is we have to get you past six figures or we have to get your women to work. That's
yeah, I understand that that sentiment, and I agree with you in the sense that we are in this shithole right now, and we got to figure out a way to work around the fact that we're already in this shithole. I get your position there. What I would say is, regardless of whatever we have going on, we're in today's day and age. What you're speaking of right now, in my opinion, we're dealt two shit hands at this point. Either you work in the society that you're in right now, and to a certain degree, you'll lose a sense of morality in the sense of how things usually worked back in the in before feminism and before the equality movement, or we continue in the society, or sorry, or we're just going to go into a position where we're not replacing our human beings, and our society will crumble at that point. But I mean, for me to end off on this, I think this will probably be my last point before before I give you the floor to give your last closing statement, and then we can end it off here. But for me, we have alternatives. Either we, at least from the way you're presenting it, either we work in the society we're in now, or rather, we have to, in the way that you're presenting it, we have to work in the society we're in now, and this society is doomed to fail regardless, because we're not perpetuating this idea that we have to do what's virtuous in the sense of replacing human beings into a position where they would actually be where they would actually flourish. So in that sense, I would say it's still degenerate in that sense, whether it's productive or not productive in today's society, in today's sense. I think the degeneracy and the moral aspect is a little bit different. It's the same thing that we talked about before, where it's it might not be biologically ingrained in us to do this, or it might be biologically ingrained in us to do this, but it might still not be moral for us to do this. So with that, I will yield my time, and I'll let you have the floor for your closing argument.
Okay. I'll say this, right? There are prescriptions I have for society, and then I have prescriptions for young men who have to actually engage with the world as it is, right? And my prescription for society would be I'd love it if we could go to a time where everyone can afford to live off of a single person's income, where one income could gear up for the whole family. So someone could get married, work a regular job, and they could have a house and kids and the pet dog and the whole nine yards. I wish that was the society we lived in. But if I have children of my own, or if I have male friends, my obligation is to gear them up for what is. It's to prepare them for the way the world is as it reaches them. And my advice to any men is not look, if you fall in love at a high school and you're gonna be together forever and that's where you arrived at life, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think you can have a sacred sort of bond and keep it that way and have sex be a part of that. If you don't fit into that category, my answer is to sow your oats until you're absolutely sick of it. Go out there and prove time and time again that you are a top dog, that you could have whatever girl you want, and that when you finally meet the girl that you know is special to you, that they have to convince you to settle down, not the opposite way. That you have to go to a girl and say, "I don't want you going out. I don't want you this. I don't want you that." I want you to be the guy that the girl goes over to you and says, "You got to stay home. You got to try and do this. You please don't go out. I want the dynamic in the relationship to be much, much different than the way I currently see it. And so my advice to men is go out and live your life, do what you have to do, be at the top of your game. And if I had to chop down a tree, spend 4 hours sharpening the axe and 2 hours chopping down the tree, right? If I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, 4 hours sharpening, 2 hours cutting. And so I don't think you should be out there sleeping around belligerently and just do this until you reach the depths of hell. But what I'm saying is you should be the master of your domain in every way that that's important. You should be the master of your domain sexually, physically, mentally, financially, every single way that's important. That's how you prevent yourself being controlled. That's how you sort of have speed to do whatever it is that you need to do in life. And I wouldn't deprive myself sexually. I wouldn't say to men, "Oh, save your first time for this person," or whatever. Maybe the first time, if your first relationship doesn't work out, and that's it, then in my opinion, then go off and prove that you're a top dog and that a lot of women want you, and live with that for the rest of your life. Understand that you always have options and that you are empowered in that way. I wouldn't give the opposite advice. I wouldn't say cling on to a woman as hard as possible if they're the first person you've slept with because no one will ever sleep with you again, right? And I think that a lot of times not doing the one is doing the other, right? I think telling people, "Hey, it's immoral to have many sexual partners." Again, I view that as, it's as old as the key and lock. There are good keys and there are bad locks. If a good key opens many locks, that's a great key. If a lock is opened up by many keys, it's a bad lock. And unfortunately, the principles are different for men and women. Um, and again, I would never ever punish a person for being healthy, for being full of vitality and being strong. Right? I don't look at leaders like Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan. I don't look at these people and go, "Oh, those guys were degenerate." I look at them as they were at the top of their craft, and the world still feels their dying breaths because of the behaviors that they had. They lived like leaders. They lived like kings. And look, part of that was a sexual element. And yes, they had the options to do what they did, and they chose that. And how dare I, as a person who am not Alexander the Great, I'm not Genghis Khan, how dare I look at them and their great stature and go, "Oh, well, what they did was immoral. I wouldn't do that." Well, if you're a guy on this planet, most of you would do that if you could, and the fact that you don't is a sign that you can't. It's not a sign that you wouldn't. And it may be true for the other members on this podcast that they believe there's a moral element to just being with one person exclusively. By and large, 99% of men, they don't want to do that. And look, I don't think the opposite downgrades society all terribly. That's all I'll say on that.
All right, great.
Sorry, I went on a rant. By the way,
No,
I
you're
know I
good. You're
went a little
good.
crazy
That
there.
was your closing argument. You had the floor right there. You could have said, you had your moment to say whatever you want, man. That's good though. It was a good closing argument, man. It was very interesting. Maddie, you have anything to say about this before we wrap it up?
It was a beautiful conversation. I'm glad. See what I like about Aubrey. I really like him. I really like you, Aubrey. You're
Thank you,
very
Maddie.
educated. And you're very good at speaking facts and speaking your mind. The way you put your thoughts together is it's very good. Unlike me, obviously, I couldn't even get that out. um, I really liked seeing his aspect because it is true. There's the reality of today's society. There's the reality of how men are, how men should be, and then there's the aspect of Matt, how you see it. Not saying you're wrong, not saying you're wrong or right. I'm just saying that it's he's saying how I should be saying. Fuck, I can't even speak. Damn. He's saying it how I would say it if I was at that level of like the knowledge and the just being able to put thoughts together with better vocabulary, better statistics, and better knowledge and proof. So it was really good to hear the conversation because when we have it, Matt, it's like I can't I get a headache after going back and forth after a little bit. But it was good to hear Aubrey counteract. It was really good to hear him rebuttal and say things that I would say things that made me that were real eye openers in the conversation and on certain topics, especially this one. It was really good. to just hear both of you go back and forth and express your opinions. But Aubrey, good job saying what you were saying, man.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
it's,
and I
no, go
I
ahead, go
will
ahead, go
say,
ahead.
oh, one other thing too is I listen to your podcast, like, you know, a lot of the episodes, you know, and all I can think of, I know a lot of times, you know, you guys kind of go at each other, you're jawing back and forth a little bit, get into it. You know, we got to build each other up in a lot of ways. You know, that's kind of how I see it. And I know we're not always going to agree on things, right? Like I might have an opinion Manny doesn't have, or vice versa. Right? We might all share sort of a different perspective of the world. But my whole thing is like we got to elevate. We just got like Maddie. I don't think it's acceptable that you're still a virgin. You're a good guy. You sound like you're a sharp guy. I don't think it's acceptable. We got to get you into that game, right? I don't see any reason why you couldn't be. From everything I've heard you on not even just this podcast, 'cause you've been a little quiet the last hour or so, but on the other podcasts, yeah, you're right there at the finish line. I don't understand what the problem is, right? And I think you're friends and you're all friends with each other. We got to elevate each other. We got to elevate the situation and say, look, Maddie, we're not tolerating that shit anymore. We got to get you in the game,
Time to
100%.
get hella pussy.
Yeah, 100%. Because I don't look if I spoke to you just now and you sounded off and you had a lot of problems and you know I felt like I was talking to somebody that couldn't figure it out, then I'd say, listen, man, let's read a book and enjoy other aspects of life. But that again, that's not the case, you know. And sort of, I'm tired of seeing men settle in a lot of ways. That's why I'm even speaking because I'm sick of seeing that, you know. So fuck these female friends, fuck all this shit. Let's get you out there, Maddie. Let's do it.
This that's very interesting. You should say that. George would love you, man. George would love you, I think. Um,
Yeah, but George talks a lot of shit too. Is the problem? George, I hear how he talks to Maddie. I don't appreciate that. George needs to
Yo,
be nicer.
that's exactly what Maddie was saying about his friends, man. His friends were saying the same shit. Georgie talks a lot of shit, bro. I'll be honest.
He got to stop doing that, man. Because honestly, if I'm George, if I'm Maddie's friend, or if I'm George's friend, I'm just being like, yo, what? There's a new game now. Yo, if you're a friend of mine, we're not broke. I'm not gonna allow this shit to happen. I'm gonna call you stupid for what you're paying a rent, or I'm gonna call you stupid for what you spend your money on, or I'm gonna call you stupid for the job you have. We're not gonna tolerate being broke. We're not gonna tolerate being out of shape. And yeah, women sort of come on the back end of that. But you know, I don't know. I think George he a little rude sometimes. I don't really appreciate that.
Maddie, what are your thoughts on that, buddy?
Fucking love Aubrey.
All right. Well, with that being said, man, it was definitely a good back and forth between me and Aubrey, and obviously Maddie when he had his back and forth with Aubrey as well. It was insightful conversations, man, and I think the audience probably definitely enjoyed that, and enjoyed the different disagreements and agreements and opinions that we definitely put out. Aubrey, phenomenal to have you on, brother. It was great. It was a great conversation. It was a great episode, and we appreciate you coming on, and we would love to have you any other time, man.
Well, likewise, and you know, whenever you want me, just hit me up. I'm usually down, especially at this time of night. I'm definitely not working by 8:45 at night. But yeah, and hopefully, my podcast gets up and running soon. Hopefully, I can have you guys on as well. We'll figure it out.
We would love that as
We
well.
would love that, bro.
It was a great episode, man, and yeah, you have a book that came out, right? You published a book.
Yeah, I did. It's actually a couple of years old. It never gained a whole lot of traction. I'll be honest about that. But mostly because I didn't push it hard. So if I could just, is it okay if I explain that book for like 2 minutes?
Dude, go right ahead, man. The floor is
Yeah.
yours. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the name of the book is it's How to Succeed in the Big Box Gym. It's a guide to being a top trainer, personal trainer.
Sorry to interrupt. You have that on Amazon, right?
I have it pretty much everywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Yeah. Just if you Google my name or you Google that name of the book, you should find it. My name is probably the fastest way to find it.
Yeah,
Aubrey Canna. I have such a
I'll
unique
definitely
name. So
yeah, I'll definitely put that on in the link in the description. If you guys are interested in that, check it out. Link in the description. But go ahead, keep explaining your book.
yeah. So basically, I throughout from the time I was, I want to say 18 up until really even now, was working in and around gyms. You know, had a personal trainer in many gyms in New York City. You know, first I was in a gym in New York Sports Club, and then I moved to Crunch, and then they put me as a manager in New York Sports Club, and then they put me as an elite trainer in Crunch, and then I was a manager of a different, you know, I was a lead trainer in New York Sports Club, and then I was a manager of Crunch. I was kind of all over the place. I managed a bunch of gyms in the city, and that book is basically if you're trying to be a personal trainer, uh, in that book, and you will 100% have a leg up over pretty much everybody else in the application process, in the sales process of actually developing clients. if you're a personal trainer, it's a must read. And a lot of people starting out personal training are, let's say, pretty broke. If you are completely broke, you can inbox me and I'll send you the book for free. If not, I think it's like $10 on Amazon. So, um, yeah, if you just send me a message saying, "Hey, I can't afford the book," more than happy to even just send it to people if they're starting out. Um, but yeah, I think if anybody has an interest in a career in fitness, it's an absolute must read.
Phenomenal. That, like I said, the book will be in the description. You guys are interested in it, check it out. It hasn't gained too much traction, as you said, but we'll definitely try and
Yeah,
change
and
that.
and yeah, and just to say one other thing, right? The reason why it hasn't gained much traction, just if it's okay, I'll tell you a little story about how I wrote the book.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Um, I was a personal trainer for many, many years, and COVID happened, and I ended up in a position where I was out of a job. And I said to myself, I'm going to come back to the gym. I'm going to come back to the gym. I want to write down everything I know at this moment in time because I was looking into living, like essentially going into the financial side of my career. I graduated college, right? I said, before I quit this industry, I want to write down everything I've learned about how to do this job because I want to have my own records. When I go back to this job, I need to remember exactly what I did because I was doing it so well. And I wrote all the stuff down. It was about 50 pages. And I said, hey, you know what? I could probably add another 20 pages to this so that people not proficient in Aubrey gibberish can understand this and call it a book. And that's exactly what I did. It sold a number of copies and, again, hasn't been successful from a financial perspective. I would say it really was not a financially good use of my time. But I can say that the people who have taken the time to read it have found it very, very helpful. Um, and yeah, I mean, look, I love being a trainer. I think it's a great job to make good money, stay in good shape, and like I said, I think that's two out of the three most important aspects of life. So, if that's interesting to anybody, I know it's a niche thing. Yeah, I guess the book's in the description, and if you need a free copy, just send me a message on Instagram, and I'll be happy to send it to you.
That's awesome, bro. That's really cool that you would do that. But 100%, I'm gonna get some traction on that book. The link will be in the description down below for the Amazon link, and also Aubrey's links will be in the description as well. So if you want to check him out as well and go through all the links that he would have, or DM him directly if you have any questions about his book or anything else that he's doing, definitely check him out. He's definitely an astute guy, smart guy, and a very good conversationalist. We had very good conversations today, and the podcast was very entertaining. I think the audience will like this one a lot. But with that being said, I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts before we close off the show. Anybody have any final thoughts?
I
Aubrey,
think it was
you're
a
an
great
amazing person,
conversation.
and it's very interesting. And it was very nice to just to have a guest. Not nothing against any of our other guests, but a guest just from a just from a different type of background, because you're from a different state. You had a different upbringing. You have different beliefs, morals. You're a different person rather than all of us, down here in South Florida. So it was nice to get a fresh perspective from someone outside of our normal own little crazy world down here in South Florida.
Well, I'm in South Florida with you guys now. I don't know if you're aware, but I moved down to South Florida. So if you guys ever want to kick it, just hit me up on the side. We'll figure it out.
Bro, 100%. We're planning on. I mean, well, I already did with Maddie one of the episodes, but we're planning on expanding this podcast, making it more of a in-person show as well, and having a studio set up and everything. So when we get through with all that stuff, we would love to have you on as well for that. So for the
Oh yeah,
audience,
man. Just send the invite. I'll be there.
100%. The audience, stay tuned for that episode as well. That also probably would be a very interesting time as well. But with that being said, and again, phenomenal episode. We appreciate Aubrey for coming on. He was a phenomenal guest. Great conversations and everything. I think the audience will love this one. But yeah, we would love to have you on in the future. Phenomenal guest. We appreciate you coming on, bro.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, likewise, man. I look forward to seeing you guys on mine soon, also.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Everybody who tuned in, we appreciate it very, very much. We know that you might have some more important things to do with your life, but you chose to spend it here with us, and we appreciate that very, very much. Disclaimer: the views expressed on the show by the individual hosts and/or guests do not necessarily reflect the views of the CatFiveBoys channel. Furthermore, the topics that we talk about on the shows, in the future shows and whatnot, are not always the most light topics. Sometimes it gets a little deep, it gets a little dark. So if that's not your thing, this might not be the podcast for you. We have clips. If you can't catch the full shows and you want to get some of the best bits, obviously some of the best bits, not all of them, because then what would be the point of the episodes? We have several clips accounts where we post a couple of the best, the funniest parts, or maybe some of the most insightful clips of each episode. Go check that out. We have it on Instagram, TikTok, and here, if you're watching on YouTube, we have YouTube Shorts, so go check that out as well. All of those accounts are at CatFiveBoys. If you guys want to be a guest on the show, anybody want to be a guest like Aubrey was here today and have conversations with us, disagree with us, have debates if you would like, we would love to have you on. Just DM us on Instagram at CatFiveBoys, giving us a little bit of bio of yourself, a little bit of background, your name, your age, whatever the case may be, and expressing your interest in being on the show. We would love to coordinate with you and get you on the show whenever the schedules align. I stream every single Saturday at 6 p.m. I haven't streamed last Saturday or the Saturday before that. I know I'm slacking, but I'll get there. This Saturday also I won't be able to because I'm going to be on vacation for a little bit. But the Saturday following that, I will be streaming. Usually we talk about religious things, or I talk about politics and whatnot. Sometimes, or for the most part, we play games, and we have a lot of fun with it as well. So if you guys want to check that out and tune in live, maybe talk shit on me live in chat, or maybe show me some love. Who knows? All those links will be in the description. Every single Saturday at 6 p.m. are the Twitch, on Twitch and YouTube. I go live. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure to drop a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you're able. Subscribe on YouTube. Drop comments. We love the comments. Like Maddie had pointed out a couple episodes before, we love it if you guys drop comments regarding any funny dating experiences or any sort of creepy stories or whatever the case, just things we can read and react to during the Reddit section of the show. We would love to do that as well. So make sure to subscribe. We post every single Wednesdays and Fridays, so make sure you're on the lookout for that. The very first in-person show will be coming out soon, if it hasn't come out already for you guys. So be on the lookout for that. It's a new thing we're trying to do here at the CatFiveBoys podcast. We're trying to do that, me and Maddie, and be able to post more of those episodes, be more entertaining and more personable for you guys in the future. So big things coming for the show as well, and more guests on top of Aubrey. We're packed for the month of April. Every single Wednesday show will be a new guest. So we would love it if you guys check those out as well when those come out. It's very interesting conversations to be had in those as well. So with that being said, thank you so much for each and every one of you for watching. Hope God keeps blessing you. God bless. Have a great night. Good night, guys.
Have a great night, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good one, man.